on 3rd down and 7. Here comes the pressure. Retzloff reads it, gets up through it. He's got a 1st down inside the red zone, still going, and he's gone for the touchdown. 29-yard scramble for Jake Retzloff.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
Here comes a trick play and a throwback to Ward. This will help his numbers. A touchdown catch. And his 28th touchdown responsible for. It's the tight end Elijah Arroyo with the pass.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
And Reed looking to throw. Nope, not for long. Takes off running and will spin down near the goal line. And they will shove him into the end zone for a touchdown.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Genty, the Clydesdales are in. Is Genty in? No signal yet. No signal
This is
yet.
so close.
On 4th and goal. Officials are there. Touchdown!
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
For the win. Kick is blocked. And SMU falls on it, and we're going to overtime.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
So how we doing? How you doing, Craig?
Oh, I'm doing good. I don't think these really work well with microphones.
No, I don't think they do. I don't think they do.
It's not good audio.
No.
I'm also like I can't breathe. Craig, you can take yours off. We took ours off. Craig looks like that's. He's got the hoodie and everything.
Here's the thing, though.
Oh my God!
The expression on the mask and the expression on Craig's face under the mask, the same.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I feel very good right now.
Actually,
yeah.
Actually, leave it on.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, it's Halloween. Hope you have fun with the kids. Max Olson, who normally joins us on Thursdays, who's been a busy beaver, by the way, the last couple of days with this story involving the Big 12 and helmet communications, and a little bit more on that in a moment. But happy Halloween. Enjoy the night with the kids. Craig, of course, I don't have any kids come by my place. It's kind of tucked in the back. It's a condo complex. Craig doesn't either, but Paul, you do, right?
Yeah, we do. We often do. Last year was a little disappointing. Amanda loves Halloween. She's not I'm not a Halloween person. She's not a Halloween person in general, but she loves Halloween night. She loves, trick-or-treating. Linda, my mother-in-law, this is one of her favorite nights of the entire year.
Is it really? Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, she loves it. She loves it. So
you got some candy for us. We appreciate that. Craig's a big Reese's guy, and Snickers, Twix, and Three Musketeers, which I love. I haven't had a lot of them lately, but I do love them. I always get one from Craig in my stocking every year. All right. I'm sorry. I gave away secrets. So let's get to what happened really towards the end of the show. This is from Max Olson, the latest on the Big 12, when yesterday there were, I don't know if the word is accusations, but there was some finger pointing. A Texas Tech apparently frustrated and maybe more than that, concerned that there was some headsets in the audio that was being, I don't know if stolen is the right word, but that there might be some issues with the headsets. That's not breaking news about the issues with the headsets. Craig brought this up yesterday. So the Big 12 has done their investigation, says there's nothing that shows anything that would have led to anything that would have given somebody any kind of advantage or anything what they found at all. So let's do the backstory. Craig, you brought this up. This came out when A&M played Arkansas earlier in the year. So let's start there, because that's when it kind of became known by some people that there were some issues with the possibility of not encrypted in the headsets. every single conference that agreed to do the helmet communications was promised by the company that this would not be an issue. They were also promised by each of the commissioners and the conferences that the helmets would have the NFL type, I guess you could say.
It's encryption.
Encryption.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case. So I don't know why all of a sudden Texas Tech, maybe because they lost a couple of games, it's kind of a bad look that all of a sudden the last 2 weeks they lose. And then here comes Texas Tech, Kirby Hocutt, Cody Campbell, etc., with accusations and maybe even emojis of a bear and a frog. But this is something that is more than just what Texas Tech might believe or their fan base. The Big 12, they could have handled this better. They knew about this. Baylor and TCU told them about this. Nothing was really done or nothing was put out. There was no meeting. So then Kirby Hocutt brought it up this week. That's kind of the background of this story. This is not just about Tech accusing or being concerned. This is something that across the board, the commissioners and conferences should have handled much, much better. And the business who handles the headsets, they failed everybody across the board.
Yeah, and look, when you've lost 2 games in a row, your fan base and everybody wants answers as to how this could happen after things were going so well. And then you get this little breadcrumb of something, and it sends you on a wild goose chase. But this was not some sort of conspiracy that happened by 2 different teams who hate each other's guts to beat Texas Tech. It was going on with everybody. They are trying to rectify the problem now and make sure that there's encryption. So the company they used is more at fault. So this kind of got really one of those ridiculous college football stories, at least out of Lubbock, a little out of hand yesterday, and got silly.
Yeah. Do I really have to take this off? I feel great. It's the best I've ever felt on this show. I almost just want to sit and
you need to take it off because we can't understand.
Yeah.
You can put it back on later on, but if there's a mask that I could have gotten for you, that was the perfect one.
Yeah.
You love that. Craig would rather not be on the camera.
Yeah.
Okay, so Craig, your thoughts about this, and I want to clarify a couple of things to make sure we get this all, and of course on the chat room. Appreciate this is 365 Sports. Craig?
Yeah, man, so the proper timeline here, you're throwing around a lot of like, well, we think in this, okay, yeah, so Texas A&M had the encryption issue earlier in the year. It became known at that time. Unfortunately, the company didn't have the proper, encryption in place that prevented this the way that the schools were told that it would, which was the way that the NFL uses their headsets. They were under the impression that it was the same as the NFL, so there wouldn't be those kinds of issues. That was not the case, so that's where everybody was already off on the wrong page to begin with. And then apparently they have these issues that continue to arise or become problematic. And like you said, the big thing here is that there was somebody wrong here. It just wasn't necessarily Baylor and TCU. It was the Big 12. They did not handle this correctly. They basically, I guess, told some of the schools, what do you call them? The
football operations?
Yeah, like the football ops people. They told football ops people at all the schools, but according to the articles, like that doesn't mean that they went and then told their head coaches and their presidents and their ADs, and they informed the whole chain of command. So they told some of the people at the very root of who might be concerned with the issue, and then just, I guess, left it up to them to go tell all the people in power that would also like to know, like your athletic director and your head football coach and those guys. So I think it depends on what school you're talking about as to where this even got before yesterday.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
So I think Tech, according to Chris Level, got word from some random anonymous person that he didn't shed any light on that, according to somebody that I saw, that he said, I guess that Tech was approached by somebody who had like full-blown recordings of these games. And so I've seen a bunch of Texas Tech fans referencing that. I haven't seen a single audio recording to speak of, nor is there an inference that was like, they're calling this and we're responding. It was just like, it's just vague. There was audio recordings. So apparently Texas Tech was approached with this like in the last couple of days or yesterday, and that's when they were alerted, and that's when then they turned and told the Big 12. So I don't blame Texas Tech for being like, what the hell is this all about? Especially when you come to learn that a bunch of other people are like, wait, what are you talking about? So the whole conference wasn't even on the same page here. that's a fault of Brett Yormark and whoever underneath him is in charge of relaying this information. Let's just start right there. Like, no matter what you feel about Texas Tech and whether they're crying or whatever, they have a legitimate gripe here. Not necessarily that's why they lost games, but the whole conference should be aware, like, hey, there's a chance the communications could be wonky and you could be having some bleed over that other people, if they had, the proper setup and the knowledge of it, they could take advantage of. It wasn't like you just flip on a light switch and you're like, run left, throw to Micah Hudson. Like, it wasn't like that. So I don't know how much it actually helped people, but the first issue here is that there was an issue and it was not properly handled.
And one of the people that works at AT&T Stadium with the Cowboys also is a part that works with Baylor and also TCU. They're part of the, I guess you could say, vendors or clients or whatever you want to call it. They also told the SEC, this person that heard about the encryption issue, both TCU and I believe it was TCU and Baylor called the Big 12 office and said these headsets are flawed. The Big 12 said, okay, we'll look into it. Never heard back from them. Also, there was communication between Baylor, from what I'm being told, between Baylor and Tech saying that they're not comfortable with it either before they played the game in Lubbock. And so that's one of the issues on the table as well. ADs are upset, huge failure by the company. They apparently have fixed the issue. But to not bring it up to the ADs when it first came out or when it first became an issue is just, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, they left themselves open for a potentially scandalous type of moment for the league, in a league that, in a year that's otherwise been pretty fun and memorable. You just left yourself open to this. Like, you just left your back door open, and you didn't tell the rest of the house, like, hey, the back door is going to be open. Like, you might want to keep your head on a swivel and maybe lock your bedroom door or what. You just like, they'll figure it out. They'll figure it out when they see somebody walking through the house. Or, I don't know. I know it's not the best example, but it's just like they just left it up to everybody else to just take care of their own and not inform everybody. So that's where the big issue lies. As you said, I saw that as well, that TCU and Baylor apparently became aware, passed it on to officials, so that ruins the narrative.
Go ahead.
That ruins the narrative of Texas Tech, and quite frankly, Texas Tech would be fine in the way that they put out this, except for they made it so public and so about their games to everybody who's reading the story of, like, so Texas Tech's accusing people of cheating. That's how the story reads. And you think, well, maybe not. But then the problem that Texas Tech had, and the reason why it turns into their whining, is when your biggest donor gets on Twitter.
Show the tweet. We have it.
And he's been on this show. Like,
Cody Campbell.
Good guy. But
Great
this
guy.
is the biggest donor for Texas Tech. And as this story is getting published yesterday, he's very clearly making it look like, oh, Baylor and TCU are doing something. And based on a lot of Tech responses, they're like, dude, shut up and just be better at football.
Yeah.
And so salute to you, Red Raiders fans, who are like, cut the bull. And then there's a bunch of them who are like, this is the only reason we lost. And those people, you go check their timelines, they believe a lot of things aren't true that they don't vibe with, okay? Yeah. So you're going to always deal with those people. But, so when you have Cody Campbell out there putting that out, dude, that's just throwing more gasoline on this thing. And I'll just tell you right now on this entire story, whether anybody was found cheating or not, if the reigning national champion can do what they did last year, I don't give a damn about a little bit of helmet communication for whatever the regular season. I'll be honest with you. I really don't. This is a story that the Big 12 fumbled. This is a story that Texas Tech then went and poured gasoline and lit. And I don't think most of the country actually gives a crap at all. I think this is a blip on their backsides, quite frankly. And I think it is for most of the Big 12 as well, because most people are now like, so Texas Tech's just bad at football. That's what we were trying to, that's kind of the reality. But, it's a look that wasn't great, and it's one that needs to be handled. And I guarantee there's people that will still refuse to believe that it's not just what it was said to be today, but that's just life in general, just like we're going to have an election next week.
Right.
And inevitably, somebody's going to feel like their guy didn't win, there's a conspiracy. So if you believe that that's the case, you're going to believe that. If you don't, you don't, and we'll move on accordingly.
Do you know how some in leadership positions around the Big 12 found out about this?
The meeting on Tuesday?
No. Well, that was discussed. But as far as yesterday, some ADs and some others were like, wait a minute, what? They found out because a national reporter started calling them. Max Olson might be it. Let's see. Chris Vanini, among others, a part of it. And so some of them were caught off guard because they didn't know. And I don't know if Baylor or TCU with Donati or Mac Rhodes knew that they were the ones that were pretty much, in a way, somewhat targeted because, of course, the issue was brought up in the last week. Now, the tweet by Cody Campbell, first of all, he's an incredible supporter of Texas Tech. He is a mega alpha donor. We've had him on the show and enjoyed it because he helped us understand NIL, just like Jeremy Fudge from Baylor and others. But when you put up the bulging eyes and then you put up the frog and the bear, that's like almost like you have some sort of information that's evidence against those two schools. And I think that Cody, I don't know, he's pretty big boy, doesn't care. I think he probably could have handled that a hell of a lot better.
But
the failure is, again, the conferences knew there was an issue. The conferences also promised everybody, ADs, coaches, everybody, that these headsets would be the exact same that is used by the National Football League, by the NFL, and that is not the case. They dropped the ball. We're 7, 8, 9 weeks into the season, and so that's really angered a lot. I don't know how long the contract is, but that's angered a lot of people in athletics and administration around the country.
Yeah, I honestly don't think it's that big of a deal in the grand scheme, and I don't think, like I said, that most people nationally care, but here in the Big 12, it was a story yesterday, and so we're going to talk about it a little bit, but I don't think it's something that's going to be like this long-lasting, scandalous storyline of 2024. But I can see why if you're Cody Campbell or you're Joey McGuire, you would want it to be because you guys have invested a lot. There's a lot riding on your shoulders, and you're not winning games all of a sudden when you got off to this great start. So you would love for this to be the smoking gun of like, well, that's why we lost was only because these two teams cheated and they read our signals, and that's why we lost those games. And yeah, you would want to believe that. I would want to believe that if I was a Texas Tech fan, but I've seen plenty of Tech fans who are like I said a second ago, just whatever, dude, get better and play better defense or whatever. And so I commend those people because I don't think this is some giant smoking gun. There is the information that Baylor and TCU were as aware and also relayed it, so that kills the entire narrative of them, buying scanners and whatever it is that you would hope that was actually the case. I think the Big 12 is at the root of the issue, and they are the ones that didn't handle this properly, and they turned it into a potentially really messy PR situation for themselves by not talking to their schools and just, I guess, telling, like, ops guys, like, oh, we'll just ensure that you'll go pass it along the chain of command. Like, no, you should have called the ADs directly. There should have been knowledge across the board prior to the meeting on Tuesday.
How about a mass email to everybody from the conference?
Something, but they did not handle that right.
A group text?
Well, here's one of the other things.
Instagram post?
Katie Rader. Smokey, he's talking about Cody Campbell. He's a regent, too. Big money that barely talks about anything. He knows things other idiots don't. I'm not gonna, you're not questioning us. I know you're not, because you wouldn't. But we know stuff, too. We do our due diligence, too. Now, am I a regent? No. I'm not a big booster or a donor for anybody. But we also do our job. So, yes, he's a regent, he's a donor and all that. And I like Cody Campbell. This might have been just a blip.
That's not the point of what we said.
I think he got emotional about that.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, he got emotional about it.
The regent should not be jumping on, throwing, mysterious emojis out that are pegging two of your rivals to the board for cheating, basically. Because that's what I saw a lot of yesterday. Well, Texas Tech's not accusing anybody. Here's Cody Campbell with a frog and a bear emoji and big bulging eyes. So, yeah, they might not be saying these two cheated, but you're basically saying that. That's what I'm saying about Cody Campbell is I don't think that was the best look. I don't care what he knows. I'm sure he knows a lot and obviously knew enough about this, but in a way you were accusing those schools. So, if there's more to it, then I'm sure we'll hear it. I don't doubt for a second, like I just said with the Connor Stallions thing, I don't doubt for a second that there could be people trying to find ways. It's college football. Of course they are. Like, what are we talking about? Of course there's a possibility that somebody could be going and grabbing a scanner and trying to take advantage and break down your play call and do all that. I wouldn't put that past any program in America. I just don't buy the ability to really do that all that quickly in these couple of games, and that's the reason for why you lost. And I don't think it's a good look for the powerful regent and backer and supporter to basically nudge, wink, wink. We're not saying anything, But here's a bear and a frog emoji and big bulging eyes. Yes, you are saying something. So, yeah, I'm sure he knows. And if he knows more, there's more to know, then we'll all know it in time as well. I don't know if the Big 12 really did their check in 24 hours and crossed every T and dotted I. I don't believe everything they say at the moment, honestly. But, I mean, I also don't think this is the thing that's going to turn the Big 12 on its head this season.
I just think that for this in particular – the process I think it would take probably at least a full year and an off season to figure out how to effectively cheat off of this, right? Like to do it where, like, look, Connor Stallions didn't come by this accidentally, right? When he was stealing signs, he's military trained, he's learned all these things. Essentially, he was an expert in kind of code and all those things. So he used those skills over time and painstakingly researching things out, and that's putting it nicely, but that's what he did, of watching signals, going places, and doing this. So you're telling me that some football coaches could be sitting in a booth, and then somebody gets a frequency scanner, and this microphone is on from the time that the play clock starts until a few seconds before the snap, and then it turns off. So if you're the defensive coordinator who's talking to the defensive player with the green dot, to listen to the whole thing that everyone says, decipher it, and then feed it back to the defense in time for them to do anything about it, I just don't think that there's any kind of way that you could realistically
we don't know
do
that.
it.
We don't know that. But
we don't, but
it's not really
that's the point, yeah. But that's the thing of let's work this out of how the functionality of the thing works and how it doesn't. It's not like they're talking constantly throughout the game.
Yeah.
It's
the problem
intermittent.
is with the company that is the one who had the contract with all of the schools, and their headsets were deficient. Their headsets were not professionally ready to be in a position where there was a lot of communication between coaches, players, etc., with so many games in also college football.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that this was a story that also covered every other power conference and their issues and their exact same issues, and the fact that some of them had sent their equipment in already, and that they also had schools that just didn't feel like it was that big of a deal and didn't need to send it in or didn't feel the necessary need to send it in right now. I guess everybody's going to do that at this point, and they'll update all the software on that, but all the other conferences didn't seem to be all that bothered by it or felt like it was anything that was worth getting in a tizzy over. The only ones were, I guess, obviously Texas Tech, but we come to learn that, the Big 12 wasn't totally informed. So that's where it starts. It starts with that knowledge not being out there on the part of the conference. The blame lays at their feet, and then whatever you want to believe after that, you're going to believe, and there's nothing, that anybody's going to say to probably tell you otherwise, even if TCU and Baylor were also aware and also telling the league office. So that completely destroys that narrative. But, again, whatever you want to believe, this isn't Connor Stallions. And even if it was, what came of that? Yeah. So why am I going to give a damn about it, all of a sudden and let it turn this year on its head? I'm not. So if there is a deeper issue there, then I don't know that they would have found that out in 24 hours, but it is what it is at this point, and the Big 12 has nobody to blame but itself for this entire conversation.
Here's the thing. I don't blame this on Texas Tech. I blame this on the helmet company, again, and the administrators or commissioners and those who run the conferences that could have handled this in a much more efficient way. That's that's where the failure is. Now, the timing of it for Texas Tech, maybe because of the back-to-back losses and the disappointments. Yeah, you got a lot of people hot and bothered up in Lubbock right now because of the last couple of games, and especially losing to two teams that are longtime rivals in TCU and Baylor. I don't know what led. I don't know who leaked the story to the media, how Max Olson got on it the way he did. I don't know. Somebody did. And so there we are with that. And hopefully, I don't know, it's like it's college football, man. There's always a little bit espionage, or there's concerns, or there's accusations that are also along the way. But the commissioners of the Power 4 school or conferences could have handled this a hell of a lot better.
No, Brett Yormark could have handled it a lot better.
Well, it's the commissioners of the Power 4.
Well, nobody else is around those other conferences is complaining that they didn't hear this.
No, but Okay, all right, I'll take, yeah, okay, then I'll agree with you. I don't know what the SEC with Sankey and others, what they may have said once they were alerted to this issue.
Yeah, but they didn't say it publicly.
Yeah, no,
that's the thing. That's the difference, is that the SEC, Greg Sankey, rules with an iron fist, and do you think Mississippi State would come out and be like, this is why, this is it? No, because they know that they'll get cut off at the knees by Greg Sankey. Now, not that Brett Yormark is that bad at it, but the SEC didn't say anything. The ACC didn't say anything. They all knew about this. Like you said, A&M was the first one. A&M never complained about anything. They just said, we don't think this is working. Mm-hmm. And that was the complaint. It was some of the higher-ups, including like Kirby Hocutt, even putting that vibe out there that something was going on that made this a thing out of Lubbock, where out of College Station, it just was a thing like, hey, we notice these things aren't really working. Can we look into that? That was the thing. Texas Tech took that and ran in a little bit of a different direction.
I would think that Donati and also Mac Rhodes may, after all of last night and even into the day, you call the conference office and go, why are we having to defend ourselves? We're the ones that told you about this. Yeah, that would be a scenario of somewhat interest.
Yeah, that's the difference, is that it was handled differently. We knew about it. It started. We knew about it, and we're already talking about it probably way too much and making it too big of a deal. But A&M and Arkansas, that's when everybody was made aware. The entire country knew then. Everybody went about their business. And for some reason, only one conference didn't, I guess, inform all their members, or just nobody else in those other conferences really thought it was that big of a deal, that even if they didn't hear it right away, that it really made all that much of a difference to the point they needed to say something. So, yeah, the reason why this became a big deal is because the Big 12, or whatever it is, Big 12 didn't inform its schools the way it should have, and then Texas Tech decided to make it a very public ordeal and basically say that TCU and Baylor are cheating without saying that. And that's what my whole point is with the Cody Campbell thing. That's basically what you were inferring. Whether that was intentional or not, that's what you were doing. And you're a smart guy. You're a billionaire. You knew what you were doing there. So no, nothing personal, but that's why this turned into more of a thing for 24 hours than it did anywhere else in the country, even though they had the exact same issues for the most part.
Here's the funny tweet of the night last night. And, Garrett, this is about the TCU and Baylor fans who hate each other. And some of them actually do. This is from Wild Bear 09. Never thought there would be anything to bring Baylor and TCU fans together this week, but here comes Tech in there. And then he said BS again. And, again, pointing the finger at Tech. That's a joke. We can joke in this days and age in this country, so there we are.
It kills it when you sit there and stomp all over the joke by saying it's a joke. Laugh at the joke. The joke is funny.
Okay, then I shouldn't have read
No.
You just got to let the joke be a joke.
Yeah, you don't Jeb Bush it. You don't please clap.
Yeah, this could have been like this could have been in March, and for them to get along would be.
All seriousness, I mean, Tech needs to go play a good game this weekend. Mm-hmm. I mean, they need to. They don't. Everybody's aware of the issues now, so go to Ames and go play your tails off. And Barrett Morton's healthy, and I'm sure we'll see some more Will Hammond. And they've been, that Baylor game wasn't all that close. That's the other thing. The Baylor game, if that was like the rare blowout, you'd go like, yeah, that was kind of weird. That's never happened before. But it happened 2 years ago. Like, that's the thing, is they went to Lubbock and did pretty much the exact same thing 2 years ago. But if that had been a one-off, you'd go like, yeah, that is very strange. But I think because of this, Texas Tech's already feeling a little bit of pressure because they've taken a couple of losses in a row. They've got some, more coin flip type games upcoming, if not an outright being an underdog in Ames this weekend. So I think, once you do this, you're doing it for what you believe are the right reasons. But now, as a result, like, you really need to win. Like, you better win. And if you don't, then I think it just makes it look worse for you. And then it makes it look like excuses potentially, which is how some Tech fans are already taking it yesterday. But, yeah, I think it's important to go out and big a show. But the good news is like, there's no more secrets. Like, everybody's aware now. If nobody was before, if you weren't before, you can't possibly be unaware at this point. So that's good, and that was a service that they did do. And so Tech does deserve credit for bringing this to light. I just think they put it under the spotlight a little bit too much, and that's where I'll leave it.
Whether they called a national reporter or somebody that put it out there for a national reporter, that's what kind of made this thing into a firestorm instead of the Big 12. Releasing some sort of an email or statement or meeting or whatever. It's good that Kirby Hocutt brought it up. It just got a little bit dicey that some schools within the Big 12 feel like they were blindsided because of it, and it could have been prevented. I like Cody Campbell. We'll offer a chance for him to come on the show anytime he wants. Maybe he's blocked my number. I don't know. And, oh, by the way, there are some other football notes. Indiana quarterback Curtis Rourke is on track to start, according to Brandon Marcello at Michigan State Wednesday. Of course, he's been out when he cut his fingertip like a fingernail in that win against Nebraska, had surgery on his right thumb. Kirk Cignetti saying Monday he was optimistic that Rourke would play again, maybe this week, and that appears, at least for now, that the timeline is he could be there for their game against Michigan State.
Yeah, that's huge news for Indiana as they go down the home stretch here. They could really shake things up. They've got a game against Ohio State coming up here soon. If you're Curtis Rourke, you want to be completely on your game when that comes up here. So getting more time in, getting healthier, and doing that would be great. They can probably beat Michigan State, who's been not great this year without him. But you want your guys in there. You want them at full speed when they get into the big game. So happy that Curtis Rourke is going to be playing. Interested to see how Indiana's ride continues.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like he's got a thumb issue and a nail issue and all that. You just never know, especially a quarterback handling the football, how all that's going to work out. But it sounds like, luckily, it's nothing too major, so that's great. You don't want one of the best stories in the league, in college football, talking too much about the Big 12. In the bigger picture of college football, one of the best stories, if not the best story, you don't want that to be ruined by some pesky hand injury, even though we've seen that plenty of times before with seasons getting derailed. But I'm glad to see that in this case that won't happen, at least, for this week. And moving forward, they've got their guy, it looks like. So close this bad boy on out and let's see, how far you can take this. I still don't think you're going to beat Ohio State in a couple weeks, but who the hell knows, especially because you should have your starting quarterback. And otherwise, we'd be probably feeling a lot differently about that. But that's great. Like, I want to see the best players play on the best teams, and they're certainly one of those combinations this season.
We will have the Big 12 South Pod here in about after this next break. Dave Bartu, college football matrix. Troy Baker, former Baylor offensive lineman. Craig's off the radar. There was a baseball game last night that we'll get to, I'm sure. David Marshall, who served about 3 or 4 years in the U.S. Army, was not good enough to make a junior college football team out of Waxahachie. There's a story there. He was on the same team with Jalen Rager, and he was voted, David Marshall, as the best player on the team. Did not make a JUCO team, joined the Army. Now he's a walk-on and now part of the Baylor football program. Mickey Spagnola and Paul Catalina's top 5. A couple other quarterback notes. Kevin Jennings, expected to try to play. Pete Thamel with this story, limited in practice, but Rhett Lashlee has limited him, or has at least listed him as questionable, but has been spotted in open practice and needs, of course, still to be cleared, and that would help SMU with their game coming up with Pitt.
They're going to need him. I mean, Pitt's good. Eli Holstein, though, is questionable, like both quarterbacks in that game, trying to fight through some injuries. So we'll see what happens when they do it. But that's a game with playoff implications. I told you that at the beginning of the year, SMU and Pitt has ACC championship implications and potentially playoff implications. That's pretty nuts.
Yeah, Eli Holstein's starting. I mean, that was made clear yesterday by Pat Narduzzi. He put that out there, so that's already been checked off, and so he will be starting for Pitt. And on the side of Kevin Jennings, that's great. You, again, going back to Curtis Rourke, want the best players and the best teams to play, so he is certainly their best quarterback option. That's been proven out. We saw a little back and forth with Preston Stone earlier in the year. I don't know what the hell happened to Preston Stone, but some of that was just Kevin Jennings being good, and he is a playmaker, but he was really bad last week. I'm sure the injury had something to do with that, but it's an absolute turnover machine. They got very fortunate they still were able to beat Duke because the way that they played, that should have been a loss, and yet they got the big block at the end and all that. So SMU keeps winning, but they need Kevin Jennings to be healthy, and I don't know how healthy he'll be, but if he's available, that's certainly better than the alternative of him not being available. So, yeah, hopefully he and Holstein are both as good as they possibly can be for what is setting up to be a pretty big game in the ACC. All
right, so there we are with that. There are a lot of other stories. Let's go to Shihan. Let's take a break here because this is a good discussion topic about the Big 12 and the tiers that he put together in the athletic.com, tiers 1 through 4. As it is now compared to what it was during the month of August and leading up to the start of the college football season. Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, three of our masks, Emery Winter, who was he my valet today?
Definitely
I got here very late, a bizarre thing at the condo. Garrett Ross, I'm David Smoak. This is 365 Sports. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. My dentist is Dr. Steve Childress. Sat down with me back during COVID when I was looking for someone that I could go to. The dentist I had been going to was not doing well, and so I needed somebody, and I knew that, man, this is not right. My gums weren't. And he sat down with me, and he went over really a game plan. Many things that I knew were going to happen. Many things I had been experiencing, including a couple of teeth he thought I was going to have pulled. There's a cavity. Oh, that one there, that's just a matter of time. And everything he said is true. Everything he told me, we've taken care of it, other than a couple of things when it comes to the bridge that maybe needs even more work and even more, I guess you could say, some surgery. But it's great. It's been that way now for about a year and a half. In fact, I was about to go to Florida to see my brothers, and I had something happen to what I had as a bridge. It kind of popped. Talk about, oh, my God. He fixed it for me. And here I am. Nothing's changed since then because he's just really good. He has served our military soldiers as a dentist, and he's done that for you here or wherever you are. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, is my dentist in Robinson, Texas.
Ram Power Days at Allen Samuels in Waco. Rule the road in a brand new Ram 1500 with an amazing 20% off MSRP. Or drive away with 0% financing for 72 months. Incredible savings right now at Allen Samuels.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Our communities are facing unprecedented times. At Boozer's Jewelers, we care about you and your family. If you're like me, your home has unwanted or unused jewelry lying around. They can have value, and that means we can turn that jewelry into instant cash. This is a great way to get the most value from your unwanted jewelry. At Boozer's Jewelers, we buy all kinds of unused jewelry. So give us a call and let us give you peace of mind and cash for your unwanted or unused jewelry.
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow @GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
If you want quality and personalized service for all your air conditioning and heating needs, call Tradesman Services. They're a family-owned and operated company that has served Texans for over 30 years. Tradesman offers maintenance plans starting at just $12 per month and a free service call for all new customers. They're also experts in geothermal design, installation, and service. Visit them online at coolingwaco.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
It is the Big 12 South Pod. Heck, we've discussed 3 of them already in a certain way, Texas Tech, TCU, and Baylor. But we'll get to football part of it, wins, losses, schedule, and much more. So let's start with TCU. They're in town on Saturday night against Baylor. One of the things that they're pretty good at nationally is defending the pass. Like, they're really highly ranked against defending the pass, like in the top 30 or better in the country. So that'll be interesting because that's what Baylor's been able to do the last couple of games that have led to wins, that then also has opened up the run game. So Sonny Dykes and company, that was a critical win. That's a game. You talk about frustrating if you're Tech, which we'll get to. That game there, they had that game won a couple of 2 or 3 different times and let it get away. But TCU, Paul, here they are. They're not going to probably play for a Big 12 title by any means, but they are at least dangerous because they can score.
Well, they've poked their head up, out of the ground again after last week. And, I like the Utah game, I still don't know what to think of it. And I probably will never know what to think of it. It's just one of those games, that you would have thought that, TCU with their offense would have scored more than 13. They still won the game. And then here they come last week. They didn't look good early in the game. Will Hammond's come in and he's playing really well. And then, he has a fumble and they, everything kind of turns around for TCU and they win it. I'm very, very curious to see how Savion Williams in the Wildcat works against Baylor this week, now that everybody's seen it. Now that coaches have seen it and are going to try to find a way to defend it. And look, he might be a good enough athlete to where you might be able to contain it, but he might have a couple big plays. But Dave Randa and the staff have had some time to work that out this week and prep for it, so it's not kind of coming out of nowhere. But we've seen that be effective with Kendall Briles when he had a month, everybody knowing it was going to be that in North Carolina, and they couldn't stop it. So we'll see what happens on Saturday night. I'm impressed by what they've done. I think they've calmed their nerves a little bit, and this is a big one for both teams. And TCU, if they can win this and continue their psychological hold on Baylor, that's going to be huge for them down the stretch.
I mean, Big 12 championship's not entirely out of the question. They've only got 2 losses, so there is still an outside shot, even though it's unlikely that BYU or Iowa State or K-State would all compile enough losses. But if you win this weekend, there's still a shot. And certainly, most of all, there is a guaranteed shot in the postseason. So you can, at worst, get bowl eligible this weekend and beat your rival for the umpteenth time in the last 20 appearances or whatever it is. I don't even know off the top of my head. I've typed it like 10 times this week. It's whatever it is. It's they're 8-1 in the last 9, I think, is what their record is, which is just pretty ridiculous. And there's plenty of reason to believe they could be 9-1 after this weekend. They're very good against the pass. That's where Baylor's done a lot of their damage here recently with big plays. So they're stout against that, one of the best in the country. They're not shabby against the run. I think they've gotten better on defense. And so Baylor's running game having opened up a little bit, like something's going to have to give. And I think whichever way it gives is probably who wins that game. But they're getting better on defense after a really bad start to the season. They're really good in the secondary. They've got really nice weapons on offense, especially at wide receiver. And at quarterback, they're very talented, but Josh Hoover turns the ball over way too much. That's just the case. He is number 1 in the entire country in lost fumbles. He's lost like nearly a fumble a game. Not fumbled it and recovered it, lost a fumble. He's lost more fumbles than any player in the entire country. He's also top 10 in interceptions. So you boil that together, and he is a turnover machine. And when he's not turning it over, he's throwing for 300 plus and a couple of TDs, if not more. So very hit or miss is one Josh Hoover at times, and I don't know which version Baylor will see more of, but you can force him into making some mistakes, that's for sure. If he plays a clean game, you love your chances if you're TCU, obviously. But that was a big deal to get that win last week. I think it saves them from an alternate look at the last month where things are not nearly as rosy and you're wondering about Sonny Dykes and you're wondering about making a bowl game and all this and that. Now you've got a winnable game in front of you to get to the postseason, get a couple wins in a row against a couple of Texas schools and feel good again about your direction. And then even hope for some chaos that you can find your way, somehow working your way up the ladder a little bit more before Arlington gets here, even though that's still very much a long shot. But you're in a good spot.
No, they're 3-2, though. They're in a clump with Tech and Cincinnati, and you never know some of those teams. Not everyone's going to play each other, but some of them win. You might get into you can get a list where somebody's undefeated, and a lot of people have 2 losses, right? That could happen. Probably not 7 or 8 teams, but a lot of teams could end up with the 2 losses. Let's get to Texas Tech. They were rolling, and then Baylor went into Lubbock and just did whatever they wanted and countered anytime Tech made a play. And now they're in a 2-game losing streak. And now they have to travel to Ames, Iowa. Not an unbeatable team by any means at Iowa State, but so far nobody else has beaten them.
Well, UCF nearly did 2 weeks ago, so it's not like that's impossible. But
So Texas Tech, Paul?
Well, look, they've got to shake off the controversy we spent 25 minutes talking about in a second and go out there and play. Go win a ball game. That's what they have to do. Now, they're not in a great place to go win a ball game if you're not from there. So, Iowa State's playing really well. I think they run the ball at a clip that's going to be tough for Tech to defend. And I would not be shocked if this game actually isn't close at the end of it, because Iowa State knows how to close. They might go back and forth a little bit, but Iowa State didn't know how to close. Iowa State knows how to close. Tech does not know how to close, and I think that could maybe lead to some bigger gap in the score when it comes down to it. So I would not be anywhere near picking Tech in this game. I think they've got too much going on in their heads right now.
Yeah, I would not pick Tech here. I think they'll play hard and play tough and, give it a good shot. So not ruling out the possibilities of an upset, but Iowa State's had 2 weeks to get ready for this game. Whereas Tech's, preoccupied maybe with other things right now. I doubt that bleeds over into the team, but I think Iowa State's had a pretty clear and focused mission for the last several days getting ready for the Red Raiders, and they're at home. And they're just a really good team. So I think they'll give Texas Tech enough problems that they'll, evade any sort of an upset bid. But for Tech, I am interested to see, Baron Morton back after the injury scare. How much do they use Will Hammond? Joey McGuire, I don't think has ruled out the possibility of still seeing Hammond in some spots. So I think that's something that is really at the top of the list of things to check out with Texas Tech is just the quarterback health and Morton's and then any potential usage with Will Hammond. As far as the rest of it, we know the deal. Taj Brooks is a really good running back. I also wonder if he's not starting to break down a little bit. And who wouldn't when you're getting 25 carries every week for, a couple of years? And maybe I'm off on that. Maybe he was just, when I saw him at times here in the last couple of weeks, maybe he's just, nursing something. I don't know. But it seems like he's just slowing down a little bit for it to be noticeable. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So that's something to monitor as well, along with the quarterback spot. We know they've got really talented receivers. They're going to be able to score some points, although it will be a very interesting test against an Iowa State defense that can be very good. It's also shown some holes at times. And then on the other side, defensively, we know they got a lot of issues. So I don't have a lot of faith in them getting the stops necessarily to win this game either. But I think they'll play scrappy, they'll play tough, and I'm very curious about just Morton and Hammond and that whole situation.
It's interesting. Yeah, you're right. It's interesting. I was like, well, if they can get on Iowa State early, they were losing to Baylor 14-3 and didn't blink.
Well, the thing about the TCU game is they were losing the TCU game.
Yeah.
Very early in that one, and then they came back in the middle of that game and turned it into not only a comeback, but then a pretty substantial lead, and then TCU came back again. So TCU was actually winning that game early on. It wasn't as though that was just Tech from the moment the ball kicked off until the very end of that game. It was 14-3 TCU in the first quarter. So it was the second and third quarters where Texas Tech did all of their damage, really. That's was 28 of their 34 points came in the second and third quarters. So TCU won the first, they won the middle two, TCU won the last, and not even the last quarter, but like the last 5 minutes, and that's where that game turned out. The last 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like a boxer who started fast, and you remember that immediately because it's the first thing you see, and the other guy starts to wear him out a little bit, and maybe wins the mid rounds, and then you get a knockdown or two late in the fight, and you win the decision.
That's a Rocky Balboa.
Yeah, there you go.
That's how all the Rocky movies go. He has a good first round, then the other guy gets mad, beats the crap out of him for 9 rounds, and they get to the 10th, and then Rocky pulls himself up and knocks somebody out.
And he finds his eyeball, too. He goes and finds his eyeball, and he can see again.
Yeah.
So there we are with Texas Tech. Let's get to Baylor. 1-2 in a row. Have they salvaged their season? No, because there's still 4 games left. But they've given themselves a chance. Something I didn't see happening, honestly. When they were 2-4, I thought this would be another 4 or 5 win. Not another 4 or 5 win, but maybe a 4 or 5 win season at most. The schedule, you could sit there and say it's softened up, but at the same time, in this crazy conference, you never know when somebody rises up from the ashes and plays a heck of a game like they have in the last couple of weeks, and especially the game in Lubbock. And they have TCU right here, Saturday night. We've all been asked to predict the game. A lot of emotions. And we know that TCU has owned this rivalry. There's 4 big wins for Baylor. 11, 13, 14, and, well, I can't remember. Charlie Brewer, and was it 19? That's it, though.
Yeah, the ones that you can actually count on one hand and cite specifically. And TCU goes, there's a lot of big wins for us.
All the rest.
Every year but 4.
Yeah, theirs have been really dramatic.
Mm-hmm. No, they haven't. They've won multiple blowouts. They've won
I'm talking about
wins.
Baylor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Baylor's wins against TCU have been absolutely dramatic, and TCU at times, even when you feel like they're under injury, whatever, they just got them.
One type of Baylor win versus TCU, and it's an oh dear God, how did that happen? And there's 2 types of TCU wins. There is a ridiculous blowout where Baylor didn't show up at all, or the Jalen Reagor game that nothing makes, and the Trevon Boykin game.
Yeah.
Those 2 games where nothing makes any sense.
Yep.
Where Baylor is clearly the better team going in. Everything, if you went down, you have those boxes where it's special teams, Baylor, every position, Baylor, all the way down the line. And then they play the game, and something weird happens, like that Jalen Reagor game. TCU made exactly 2 big plays.
Yep.
They were both by him on offense, and then played stellar defense and won that game.
Yeah, that was crazy right here. That's the one where I think Matt Rule had to beat Tech the next week to get to a bowl, and that was a team that you thought was going to make the next jump.
So that's some of the history. As far as this game goes, I think that Baylor has been on a really nice run, but TCU is going to present some very unique challenges because they are very good in the secondary. They're getting better just defensively as a whole. I'm curious to see how Sawyer Robertson and the offense has been kind of humming along the last couple of weeks, how they keep that up. I think the biggest stat for this game is turnovers. I think that's going to play a huge role. I know every week sacks and TFLs and turnovers, all the same thing, right? But not really. I think in this game in particular, especially with a quarterback like Hoover and Robertson, who's shown affinity to not throw 2 interceptions and average those a week or whatever, but throws at least 1 bad one every week, it seems like.
Yeah.
That to me is the quarterbacks is where I'm looking first and foremost, particularly with the turnovers. I think that's going to decide this game as much as anything else. But can they keep running the ball against a TCU defense that I think is going to be pretty ready for that challenge? And then are they going to be able to throw the ball on TCU, depending on, how they respond to the run? That whole chess match I'm very interested in because the offense has been playing really well. But defensively, I think, you feel good about being able to stop the run. You obviously got to be aware of the Wildcat and Savion Williams and whatever other curveballs they might throw. But those TCU receivers are very talented. That's going to be a huge challenge for a Baylor secondary that got really embarrassed by Brennan Presley last weekend. So there's a couple areas where TCU is really good that you're like, well, that doesn't actually match up all that well. But it's also Baylor TCU. They got a lot rolling in their favor as far as momentum and playing at home and what should actually be a real legit, real home crowd. that you're supposed to get in college football. I'm expecting that this weekend for the first time this season. So I think that'll push you a little bit. I think Baylor wins this game in a close affair, but it's TCU, so, I mean, you could tell me they win this game by 60, and I would believe it. You could tell me they win by a single point at the very end of the game, and I've actually seen that too, so I would believe that as well.
Yeah, we've seen some drama, and we've also seen, like, can they just run the clock like a game that's out of control? Then we have Oklahoma State. My God, never thought I'd see the day. Mike Gundy's trying to figure it out, and right now no one can. 5 straight losses. There have been a couple of close games. In fact, lost by 3 to Utah, got blown out by K-State and West Virginia. And I don't know about if it was always that way, but 22 points and also 24. 3 at BYU, where they gave the Cougars everything they could handle and gave up a touchdown in the last 20 seconds. And then, of course, Baylor was back and forth, but they lost by 10. I don't know who they are. I don't know who they are. I don't know how it's dropped this much. I know that there's maybe some thoughts about NIL, but they're a mess.
I know how it's dropped that much. They didn't make a commitment to getting younger at quarterback, which they needed to do. They clearly have a talent gap, and if that's NIL, there is, but they're not as talented as they have been in the past. That's very clear. And I think the BYU game was their last effort. I don't think these guys aren't trying hard, and I don't think Mike Gundy's not coaching his ass off, which he always does. I just think that that was their kind of last hurrah. And then last week you saw some things like, look, Brennan Presley had a great game. And what impressed me the most about Brennan Presley was he had 15 catches. It wasn't just long catches. It was short slants, little screens where he would make a move, get yards, fight for yards, do that. So they've got guys that are gutting it out in that team. They're just not deep at all. Especially on defense, they're really bad, and
they've lost some key people on defense,
and they can't rely on their defense to keep them in a game. And so when you are limited at quarterback and your offensive line has underperformed in a way that's ridiculous, there's just no way to win games.
They can't run the ball and they can't stop the run. That's a bad combination.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have some talent, but certainly, your Striblings and your Ollie Gordons and your Presleys and so on, I mean, they can only do so much. You can't run the ball. Ollie Gordon got a couple of short yardage touchdowns last week, but never really popped anything huge that flipped the game or anything along those lines. If anything, the story of his game last week was a couple of short touchdowns, less than 100 yards, and then, 100 back and forth after every play with Baylor defenders. He had as many arguments back and forth as he did rushing yards, and I'm not knocking it. I like Ollie Gordon a lot, but that was what we saw. He was jawing the entire time. And then at the end of the game, there's the clip of him, arguing with the group of players by the tunnel. But it was a frustrating game for him last week, despite the couple of touchdowns. And it's been a frustrating run just overall. I think injuries really doomed them early in the year to some degree. Not to where they should be losing 5 straight Big 12 games, though.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for that. But, yeah, the O-line's not nearly as good as it was expected to be. Alan Bowman, I mean, he is what he is at this point. And the defense is just not good enough to be in Big 12 contention. And those are the issues that have continued to plague them all throughout this season and will probably continue to plague them, although I think this game is winnable. And it's at home. And you're favored, and I think if you don't win this one, then I don't know what to tell Oklahoma State fans because this is an opportunity, although Arizona State is getting their quarterback back, so we'll see. And defending Cam Scatterbo with what you've done recently on run defense is
scary.
A little bit of a scary proposition.
Arizona State, TCU on the road, Texas Tech at home, and also Colorado to close it out. When we come back, Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix. A week from today, actually a week from Tuesday night, we'll see the first college football standings. I watched a Zoom meeting that Rich Clark put on and kind of how they are, the A, B, C's, and D's. Nothing that I saw that I didn't know already, but it was interesting to see how they kind of did it. If you haven't seen that before, let me know. I'll send you the link. Also, we'll have Troy Baker, Off the Radar, and much more. This is 365 Sports. This weekend with a homecoming last weekend. This weekend it is TCU and Blackout. And the Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement, Doug Furch and also Paul Thorpe have been putting together an amazing weekend. One, there's the Lunch with the Legends tomorrow. There's also the tailgating throughout the day across the pedestrian bridge near McLean Stadium, in which they have a lot of events and even food available for you too. And then, of course, throughout the night, whatever the parties are, they will also be a part of that. Baylor Alumni Fan Engagement can also help you if you're trying to publicize a watch party from wherever it might be. Maybe it's Houston or even Dallas, possibly San Antonio or Albuquerque. You can contact Paul Thorpe or Doug Furch, and they will help you get that information out to the alums in that area near you. Doug Furch and Paul Thorpe, the Baylor Fan Engagement. Go to BaylorBears.com, or you could also go to the Facebook page, Baylor Fan Engagement.
It's time to score big savings at the Kickoff to Savings event on GMC trucks at Richard Carr GMC. Take the winning drive with the Texas Truck MVP. GMC Sierra is the best truck on the road. Save $9,000 on 2024 GMC Sierra SLT models in stock with 2010 or newer approved trade-in. Plus, qualified buyers get 1.9% financing and no payments for 90 days. See dealer for details. Save big and score your deal at the Kickoff to Savings event at Richard Carr GMC.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Edward Jones Financial Advisors Josh Satterfield and John Maddox understand these are difficult and changing times we live in, but they know how important your financial investments are to you. So is your financial advisor staying in touch with you and helping you navigate today's financial climate? When you invest with Edward Jones Financial Advisors Josh Satterfield, John Maddox, and Sean Carter, they will provide their time and experience to help you reach your goals. And like coaching athletes, investing money is about time, patience, and encouragement. Josh Satterfield and Sean Carter on Wycon Road off Bagby, and John Maddox on Sapphire Boulevard in Hewitt. Proud sponsors of Midway Panthers football. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Membership SIPC.
El Conquistador Restaurants are a very proud sponsor of the Midway Panthers, have been owned and operated by the Gonzalez family since 1969. El Conquistador is recognized annually as a local favorite with their fast and friendly service. Dine in or order takeout and enjoy your favorite Tex-Mex items as well as several traditional menu items. Catering is also available with 3 locations to serve you: Waco, Belmead, and Hillsboro. The Gonzalez family thanks you in Waco and the surrounding area for your continued support of 55 years in business. Go Panthers!
Developed by Startup Waco, a nonprofit organization, GXG is a program designed to support the entrepreneurial development of Baylor University student-athletes through NIL activations. The program helps student-athletes maximize their platforms and offers a comprehensive support system for them to create and grow new businesses that not only benefit themselves, but also uplift the local economy. Fans who wish to support student-athletes can donate to GXG via the GXG NIL Fund, BaylorBears.com/GXG. Contributions to support NIL activations through GXG can be made at BaylorBears.com/GXG. For more information, follow at GXG_GreenXGold on social media and visit the official website www.gxg.startupwaco.com. GXG, empowering student-athlete entrepreneurship and uplifting the local economy through NIL activations.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. This segment is brought to you by Michelob Ultra. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Containing only 95 calories and 2.6 carbs.
Dave Bartu, College Football Matrix co-founder, Premier Staffing Analytics, and so much more, including Advanced Recruit Target Analytics firm. And Dave, you could make a lot of money right now if you could fix the communication among the coaches to the players' communications.
Dude, that's on field. We just we specialize in off field stuff. We're like the general manager's toolbox now, man. That's what we stick to.
How have you seen that job in the short time it's existed in college football? Because there weren't general managers before, or if it was, it wasn't what it is now. More from, all right, let's get a guy who kind of tells us makes a list of recruits for us, to a guy who's now constructing a whole offseason talent acquisition program.
It's really slow. As you can probably imagine, the wheels grind very slow in football, NFL and college football. In some areas, the NFL is even slower on the uptake than work we do in college football. But it's an evolving position, and we obviously are trying to put ourselves at the forefront of a GM toolbox with staffing. I mean, we've been staffing college and football, NFL football staffs now for 5 years. We've recently evolved into the roster management, the roster building, using NFL athleticism tools, but specifically as it relates to recruiting and using advanced analytics, trying to identify recruits earlier and faster, being the first one to these guys long before camps. And we started rolling that program out nationally. Virtually everybody that is signing up with us on our combine athleticism testing program for advanced recruiting, it's all the SEC teams. They're always at the forefront of trying to find stuff. So that's where we're at right now. But I think it's a long ways to go. People try to equate it to being an NFL GM. It is absolutely nothing like it. There's some similarities. But when it comes down to contracts, there's no similarities. When it comes down to recruiting versus the draft, the outcomes are very similar, but the requirements to do it are completely different. It's much more difficult and involved, I think, on the college level than just saying, well, if you can do it at the NFL level, you can do it at college level. It's going to take a while for that position to evolve.
I saw something you had pinned at the top of your feed back in middle of October about strength of schedule has zero value as measuring any kind of team quality. What do you mean by that?
It means if you try to take strength of schedule and go, okay, the team with the better strength of schedule is going to win this football game, it's a coin toss. You might as well just start flipping a quarter, because strength of schedule has no meaning, no relevance to the quality of the team. You might be able to derive some things from it, and the playoff committee uses it as the final tool, the separator. All other things equal, who had the toughest schedule? But the other inherent problem with it is there's not very many non-conference games. It's not like baseball or basketball at the collegiate level where there's a lot of non-conference games. We have a huge data set. We have 3 games. There's 134 teams. They play each other 3 different times. There will never be a good, valid strength of schedule. It doesn't matter which one they use. In my opinion, the data isn't there to make a good one. And if you're looking for the best team available, using strength of schedule first and not last, the way the committee does it, is the wrong way to do it. It's a tiebreaker, and I think they use it accurately, but understand, I don't think it's a very valid strength of schedule model.
Do you think that there are conferences that are unfairly weighted at the beginning because we do look at something, and I've heard this argument like, oh, so-and-so was number 10 when they got beat by this team, and then they find out later that they were never number 10, right?
No. Well, I think the first thing you have to understand with the committee is you get credit for a top 25 win if that team was in the top 25 last week. Okay? Not when you beat them. Right? I mean, Georgia Tech doesn't have a top 25 win today over Florida State, right? So at the end of the season, it really matters when it comes right down to the end of the season. Where was that team at the end of the season? So you'll get credit for a top 25 win if you beat a top 25 team that was there at the end. So it's very fluid, but people one of the things I hear all the time, well, the preseason top 25 influences. No, it doesn't influence jack shit. Sorry. It doesn't influence anything, right? It has no relevance on this thing because it all comes out the same every single time. So I don't worry about preseason or advanced strength of schedules or early rankings. The playoff committee has their method. They have their model. It hasn't changed in 10 years. The narrative changes. The chairman who's talking about how they got there, that always changes. So it feels like they're making changes, but they're not autonomous. They just enforce ranking rules that Bill Hancock gave us on day one.
So my question then on beating like a Florida State earlier, we know that there's no way a ranked team. What if you beat somebody in September or even October, and then they go into a free fall because their schedule gets a little bit tougher or they suffer a couple of critical injuries? Does that come into play whatsoever?
No, it doesn't, because you're talking about 134 teams. Those are anomalies, and everybody's going to be a beneficiary or, a reciprocation of good or bad kind of outcomes like that. So how do you apply that evenly if somebody that Baylor played was really good and they lost their quarterback and then they went on a 5-game skid? How do you quantify that with the other 133 teams out there? There's no level playing field you can apply. So I don't think that they have the ability or the time to try to come up with a way to apply that fairly to everybody. It's just kind of the way it goes sometimes.
Dave, I know that you have. Let me just clarify. How much proprietary information do you have that you can't talk about right here? Because I'm going to ask you a question about a couple of specific teams.
Oh, you can. No, there's no problem. When it comes down to the playoff committee rankings, it's just more of a game for us. We wanted to figure out if we could crack it because one of the things we love doing is applying analytical behavior through the numbers, whether it's recruiting or coaching. This is just a way that we can prove that we have enough data that we can track their behavior, and we can literally audit them. If they do something screwy, you can have me on next week, and I can explain exactly what they did differently from the last 10 years versus the last week. So there's really nothing proprietary from that standpoint.
Okay, so Alabama, it's almost illegal for them to be left out of anything. They are 14th in the polls right now. They've got 2 losses. They're not passing the eyeball test like Alabama did before. So there are personal opinions, obviously, that influence the committee as well. And there are people that may have agendas that kind of push them to kind of sway things when they make those rankings. If Alabama is in this top 12, is that legitimate or not?
Oh, if the rankings came out today and they were in the top 12, I would call BS on that. That's BS. Yeah, no. Now, let me clarify something you said is that you almost implied that brands sway the committee in terms of how teams are ranked.
Yeah, that's not true.
No, it's not. It's not. Now, if you have the math to show me where that has happened, I would love to see it. But I have every ranking of every week for the last decade, and they have not wavered on brand favoritism ever. It's never happened. Now, you could maybe say last year when the FSU quarterback busted his leg and they used some small print. Look, it was in the ranking rules day one. We pointed that out. As soon as the FSU quarterback went down, we were tweeting out that there is a tiny bit of rules in the ranking rules Hancock gave us that said they can make exceptions, and they used it to nuke Florida State and put in Alabama. But if it wasn't Alabama, if it was somebody else, they still would have nuked Florida State for the number 5 team. So I do not believe that the fan narrative that's out there, that this committee or any committee has ever wavered on the rules in favor of a bigger brand. I don't believe that exists. I have never seen that in the numbers.
Well, look,
first of all, you just told me to cancel the interview.
No,
why would you? I can't
here's
believe you would do that.
I asked a question.
No, you're going to go to a year we're going to talk about, right?
And I wanted to. I mean, you go, but then again, I think the explanation is the same or similar. But 2013, 2014, or 2014 with Baylor and TCU. Was that a year where the Big 12 canceled itself out by giving the committee a reason not to, or a lack of a data point, which is what the committee said about them leaving out the Big 12 and putting in Ohio State over them? Because that would be the other best incident.
Who won the national title, but there was still kind of a
No, now in that situation, the Big 12 did that to themselves.
Yep, absolutely.
When they refused to have a championship game, the year was it the year prior, I literally sent a letter to the Big 12 office saying, if you don't have a championship game, here is the map. And if you have a tie, what's going to happen is you're not going to have a champion. And so you're basically telling the committee all else is equal. So they're going to rank those two teams based off of their strength of schedule. Okay. Now, here's the big thing about not having the championship game that is so critical. Okay. It wasn't that they were tied. It's they weren't allowed to get an extra top 25 win. See, when you win a championship game, you get a top 25 win, okay? You get an extra quality win, you get an extra win overall, and your strength of schedule goes up, right? So if Baylor and TCU played each other, somebody was going to gain significantly on their resume from that game. All the other champions got to add more wins, got to add a top 25 win. These are critical parts, critical pieces to being ranked in your resume. So not only did they say, we're tied, they didn't give them a chance to win like everybody else. And that's what doomed them more than just saying they were tied. Not having the championship game was their fatal flaw, and they finally corrected that.
So whoever would have won that game, because Baylor won 61-58, both of them were really good.
Yes.
Whoever would have won that game would have had enough to get into the 4.
Yes. If they'd have hosted that championship game, the winner of that would have been there. They didn't host it, and so it denied them the opportunity for that extra top 25 win.
Bartu's blowing my mind here, man. I mean, like, that one I knew. The Alabama thing, I've been sitting on this for 9 months now.
This is a chance for you to clear your mind.
Here's the thing. It does make me feel better because what I thought was happening was that Greg Sankey basically was like, no, but they did use something and they didn't I feel a little bit better, although I always thought that rule was, I guess they applied it in the opposite way I thought they would. I thought the injury rule was, well, we're going to maybe take out this loss that they had because the quarterback was out in that game. And really, if you look at all the games where the starting quarterback played, they dominated people. This one game where he was out, they wound up losing. So let's take that into account. I never in a million years thought it would be applied the other way, that a guy got hurt and therefore the rest of the team couldn't go. Like, that's where it kind of blew my mind. It's like, wait a minute. Like, they did everything they're told to do and one guy got hurt, and I know it's the quarterback and you're keeping him out. Like, that just doesn't seem right, and it doesn't seem to be consistent with every other playoff that we had.
Yeah, especially if you go back to 14, because Ohio State lost their quarterback.
Both of them, two
and
of them.
then lost their second quarterback and proved they could win without both of them when Cardell Jones came in and did so well.
Yep, that's exactly right. And see, for me personally, I thought FSU should have been in because they had a top 3 defense. Every national title winner of the last 25 years in my scoring efficiency numbers has ended the regular season with a top 3 offense or defense. The only one in the playoffs last year with a top 3 offense or defense was Michigan. It was a piece of cake. And the only other one that had a top 3 offense or defense was Florida State's defense, and they never even got a shot to try to win the thing. So I get why the committee did it. We understand it. We called it. We said it would happen. But personally, as a fan, I don't agree with it. I thought the best unit on the field was Florida State's defense, which was better than anything Alabama had that year.
What is weighing more for Notre Dame? The win against A&M or the loss against Northern Illinois?
We have them at number 3 right now, but Northern Illinois, that could end up being a bad loss. And if it's a bad loss, that's like having 2 losses. It's going to knock them down a level when it comes down to that. So same thing with Alabama. Alabama, I think, is on the outside looking in right now, and they better hope Vanderbilt doesn't become a bad loss, a 500 or worse team by the end of the year. But right now we got Notre Dame at 3, right ahead of Miami, right behind Ohio State. They got 4 quality wins, a top 25 win. They just need to win out right now, especially with that win over A&M.
Dave, when does it ratchet up for you for teams that are wanting to find out, like, which assistant coaches should we replace? Like, where are we really? Sometimes people can think, man, our offensive line coach is really bad. We need an offensive line coach. And then other times it's maybe not his fault, it's somebody else's. When you guys do that and say, you need this kind of recruiter, that kind, when does that ratchet up for you? Is that now?
Well, it's already going. I've talked to today already. I've talked to head coaches about replacing OCs, replacing DCs. I've been working with ADs on head coaches already. NFL and college football. It's already rolling, man.
Dave, I know you got other things to do. Will the 12-team playoff make what you do more valuable than even if it was 4?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe so. Staffing matters in terms of what we do. Recruiting affects everybody, and so I don't think it makes it more or less valuable, no matter how many teams are in the playoffs, because everybody's trying to win. We know staffing is critical in winning. If you look at the last 5 years, 92% of everybody fired started the season with a bottom half graded offensive or defensive support staff in our grading system.
Wow.
And for anybody wondering, we have every on-field coach in the NFL, FBS, and FCS. We have every single year and every single career graded since 2010. So when I'm talking staff, I'm talking 1 through 11. I'm not talking Dave and Jake and those guys. I'm talking everybody on the field. These guys that are getting fired, a lot of it has to do with their staffing. So we see it as important no matter what.
Of the 133 FBS schools, how many now understand the value of your business?
14. We work for 3 NFL clubs and we work for 14 FBS programs. 5 of them are in the SEC. So it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, but it's moving along. It's moving along. It's certainly fun to be a part of being behind the scenes and trying to build a good staff for guys.
Well, I know you guys, what you do is unbelievable. Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate your time.
One shout out. If we were working with the Broyles Award, a guy that needed to be on there to be voted for, Jake Spavital, number 20 in offensive scoring efficiency on the season with a top 20 defense face. That Baylor offensive coordinator is doing a hell of a job this year, and Baylor's going to win out.
Oh,
wow.
Dave. Good Lord. I need to send that to Baylor Athletics. They got to like Dave Bartu. Jake Spavital, again, 20th. You're right, and who they've played. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I will forward that to football operations at Baylor. They need to get in touch with Dave Bartu.
Look, if you follow along and you have to follow him, and there are things like he lists. He doesn't quite often call out guys by name. But, like, he'll list – because, again, sometimes – because it is fluid with the analytics.
Right.
But he'll say, look, this team has the number 1 defensive recruiter. They've got the number 2 offensive coordinator when it comes to efficiency and all these things. And so those numbers come out. Again, I've not seen him be off on a lot of things. And when it comes to that, I was reading just some of his tweets the other day going, it's been too long since we've had Dave on the show.
Yeah, so. He's really good at that. By the way, I didn't get a chance to get this up. His father had an old lighter, that old silver, like, flick lighter. What do you call that? The
Zippo?
Yeah. And he had Dodgers World Champs 1959 on it, so that's how old it is at least. And so he was tweeting that last night after the World Series. When we come back, Troy Baker on the championship reunions this weekend at McLean Stadium and elsewhere around Waco. Plus, we'll have Craig's Off the Radar, and we'll also hear from Baylor defensive lineman and former U.S. Army enlisted David Marshall will join us. We have a lot to get to. Mickey Spagnola, Top 5, 365 Sports. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans. Hadn't been by there. It's been a couple of weeks, but I did go by there to get myself a bottle of Vita Dreams. It is a gummy. It is something that I usually about an hour out. If I feel like I have too much on my mind that I'm wired, I will take a gummy. And it's unbelievable that I will lay down and will sit there and I'm out. And it's not like I'm knocked out. It's not that. It just kind of like slows everything down in your brain a little bit. And it's not like it's not a drug. CBD product, it's not like you feel that way. It just, you fall asleep a lot easier and faster. And there's a lot of times you might have something going on with you financially. Something's happened at the job, maybe personally, or just a lot on your plate, and you're like, golly, I got to get some sleep, and then you can't because you keep thinking about it. Vita Dreams is a great option for you at Don Humidor and Coffee Beans. 48-foot walk-in humidor, Rocky Patel, my favorite brand of cigar, and then, of course, Macanudo, Aston, and so much more in the Texas wall of military veteran cigar brands and companies inside the humidor. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans inside the Town West Shopping Center between Richland Drive and Valley Mills in Waco.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Pioneer Steel and Pipe opened their doors in 1943, and they have never wavered with their focus on great product and customer service, relationships with a handshake, making sure you, the customer, is satisfied. Their new facility is now twice the size, allowing new inventory, higher quantities, and in a much more organized fashion. In addition to the long lengths in tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, Pioneer Steel and Pipe now offers several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut. Their 2,500 square foot showroom has over 1,000 new products in stock, new welding supplies, hardware, quickcrete, and do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you are a professional contractor or weekend warrior. The new facility is designed to make your loading experience faster and more efficient with easy drive lanes around the building and much more room to get your trailer loaded. Our location may have changed, but our values haven't, and our relationship with customers goes much farther than just business. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on Loop 340 and Highway 6 and just east of I-35 in Waco.
Some say a dog is a man's best friend. But I tell you what, boys, you better think again. 'Cause there ain't nothing better than some cows, pigs, and turkeys too. I love to cover them in sauce down at Rudy's Barbecue.
Bring all your friends to Rudy's for some tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, 365 Sports on this Thursday afternoon. Troy Baker. Man, look at you. You're still young. Former Connolly Cadet high school football player and Baylor offensive lineman.
Here's the thing. I know he's still young, but that hairline says otherwise. So, look, if he was just...
Oh, damn, I thought you'd shaved your head, Troy. I'm sorry.
No, there's there's some balling going on there, just a little bit. So, he's younger than us, that's for sure. But, Father Time waits for no man.
No, it doesn't. How you doing, young man? We got him?
Troy, you're muted, buddy.
Oh, hold on a second. I thought he invented.
Yeah.
Zoom.
No, I know. Yeah, he'll figure it out in a second. He's an offensive lineman. Here's the thing. I'm going to talk about him until he figures it out.
No, we're not getting him.
Yeah.
You have a mute button? All right, well.
Yeah.
Try to see if we can get him.
I thought I could hear him in the back. I thought that just call him.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna. Damn it! I wanted to see Troy. Well, we did. We saw him for a little bit, a tease. Troy was on the offensive line during those great runs at Baylor. He'll join us here again. We'll get him going here in just a second on 365 Sports. If you haven't, if you don't mind, click the like button. We would appreciate it. Sometimes those of you in the chat room will go, hey, there's 200, 300, 400 people on, and yet there's an X amount of likes. It's not nearly that number. We'd appreciate that. And if you have not subscribed to what we do, we would appreciate that too here on 365 Sports whenever you possibly can. Also tonight at 10:30 on the local CW, 365 Sports, tonight with our best segments, interviews, or topics of discussion on the local CW. Emery Winter works on that too as well. All right?
Okay, yeah.
All right. We have Troy Baker.
Okay. Yeah, just mute your speaker.
Okay, here we have Troy Baker, who now joins us on 365 Sports. Hey, man, thanks for your time. Sorry about the technical issues, but what does this weekend mean to you? We've had Bryce Petty. We had Jordan Niver. We've tried to kind of bring on some guys that we remember. A lot of others coming back. What does this weekend mean to you?
Oh, it's going to be great. Can you hear me now? Are we good here?
Yep, we got it. Yep, we got it.
Okay, perfect. Appreciate it. Sorry about that, guys. We feel welcome back for it's been a decade, which is crazy. It's been fun, the excitement. Personally, I actually had, funny enough, I've become a little bit of a hockey fan. I live up here in Dallas, so I'm a big Stars fan. And the day before this was first announced, the Stars put tickets on sale to go to Finland and play this weekend against the Florida Panthers. And I had bought tickets for it. And then this came out, and I said, there's no chance that I can miss this, just given the opportunity to get so many of the team together and all the effort put in by the current administration staff to welcome us back with open arms. And they're doing it upright. It's going to be a first-class weekend. And just having the buzz of, more than anything, all the group chats going off with all the guys and the former players of all of us just catching up. And I'm excited. It's going to be great for so many reasons.
Can Baylor recapture the magic of 61-58, Troy? The TCU rivalry has been very one-sided since you guys left, really.
It has been. The thing that's also, timing's working out great. This team's figuring out their identity. They're walking around with a little bit of swagger. They're playing with some belief and confidence now. I think it's just kind of it's obvious to see. There was some. I think back to Utah, the end of the Colorado game, and now the last couple of weeks building that momentum. And so I think that it's a perfect timing for us to come back in, because it's going to be a great atmosphere. I know that there's a lot of excitement, and rightfully so, around the blackout and the atmosphere and the uniforms and whatnot. But it should be to the point where I expect there's going to be a quality game. Obviously, TCU's kind of wild with how many points they put up this year, and kind of sporadic. We've got an offensive coordinator up there who knows how to put up points, that's for sure. So it's going to be fun to watch, and we're looking forward to it.
Troy, I'm curious if you've watched the O-line, all that intently, if there's anything you could share with us on what you see from a group that, it's a hodgepodge of young guys, and then there's transfers. And I know you guys had new guys that would come into the fold, but it really is unique and a little bit different now, and just how many interchangeable parts there can be from one year to the next. And especially with a group like that, gelling is so important, right? So have you seen that gelling going on, and just kind of what have you picked up as they started to have some bigger offensive performances?
Yeah, it's I can't even imagine how different it is now with the portal, to your point. I mean, I'm thinking back, we probably had maybe one transfer a year, and now I know it's not even that's not even close to the number that it is. Most importantly, I know last year with the different offensive scheme, with the different offensive coaching staff, that probably, obviously you have a spring ball with the new offensive coordinator and O-line coach and everything, but combine that spring ball being the first time in the offense in the playbook with the recruiting that happened over the summer with that gelling, all of those things took some time. And I think that's kind of that definitely played a part to it. I think it looks like a cohesive unit right now. They are playing confident. They are playing together. Those things go a long way, to your point. And most importantly, I think what also took a little bit of time for the team to accelerate on is that they obviously were building an identity from an offensive standpoint around a specific quarterback coming in, and then at midseason went a different direction with Sawyer, and his confidence is very clear in how he plays and how he presents himself, and it's exuding to the guys up front. And now they're having some fun, and all of those things. It's a snowball effect from momentum compounding in the right direction right now.
Do you feel like the position of offensive line, which is all about cohesion and chemistry and like knowing who's right hand, left hand, whatever, does that position not suffer, but is that the more complicated one when you have moving parts like the transfer portal now?
It probably is, and I'm using my own experience as I think about how to answer that best, Smoak. You go back to what we experienced for the 5 years I was there, from 2010 to 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I think in 2010, I think it was the same 5 guys all year. I think 2011 there was maybe 1 or 2 games with a different guard combination. 2012 it was the same 5 guys all year. 13 we got banged up. 14 I got banged up and caused the mix. But those things, like that, combined with the continuity of Coach Clements at the time and our entire offensive staff, like it made the world of difference from a development perspective. Expectations were clear. We knew what we had to do, and everybody talks about the passing game with our old offenses, but y'all remember it was all about the run game with us. I think in 2012 we led the Big 12 in rushing yards, if I'm not mistaken. And so, like, just thinking about every year, like on average, 3 if not 4 of the 5 guys being new, it's insane to think about from a lack of cohesiveness. So you have to put extra time into that to make sure that you're, from a leadership perspective, those guys in the locker room, I'm sure, and I'm speaking on the outside end, of course, so, but they obviously have had to focus on that and building their own identity and their own unit. So I think it's probably knowing the mental aspect of the game too is definitely a heavy impact, if not the highest impact, to your point.
Troy, do you think that you guys in 2013, because, like, I mean, obviously the way that you finished 2012, where that season in the early part was not good. You guys were just all over the map and couldn't really put anything together. And then after you lost at Iowa State, it's like a light came on and you guys charged through, on through 13 and all of that. Do you think that at least for a little while early in the season, even though you guys were blowing people out, that teams were waiting for the other shoe to drop and it just never did?
Yes, the 2012 one, I continued, like, you think about it, to your point, there's building blocks of that entire time frame of Baylor's football history. It's 2010, you get back to the bowl game. 2011, RG3. And then in 2012, we were finding, kind of like I said about this year's 2014, we were searching for our identity post RG3 of who we were as a football team and how we were going to go find ways to win football games. We had that game. It was a home game against Kansas. I think it was homecoming. I think Cyril was actually suspended the first half of it, if I remember correctly. And then the week after that, we went to Norman. And this is 2012. And we lost that game in Norman. But if you go back and watch that, there was 2 deep balls that Nick threw to Tevin Reese that because of the wind, just barely, like you could see them change direction at the last second, and we didn't connect on them, and just at pivotal times in the game. And then I remember there was a 15 to 18 play drive that we had as an offense on that, and I vividly remember the next day, Sunday film, Clem's showing us the film, and we're breaking down, and it was the first time we all kind of said, this is what this could look like. And we had that, again, talking about that long drive of success and getting that touchdown, and then also those balls that we were so close on connecting with Tevin Reese with Nick. And one of them was for sure Tevin. Another one might have been teed up at the time. But that's when it all changed. And then we go into practice that week, leave Oklahoma, we go into K-State the next week, and I think we ripped off 5 in a row then, because it was K-State, Tech, Oklahoma State, and then the bowl game, so maybe 4. And then after that, so UCLA bowl game. And then after that, it just all clicked, and we figured it out. To your point,
what is your favorite Baylor TCU memory?
Oh God, you're not. I was going to make a joke about a YouTube video with Coach Cobb on it. But.
No, don't go there.
Oh, yeah.
No.
Hey, that counts. I mean,
no, that is that can be it.
No, it's not. I mean, you're not going to beat 14. It's special. It really is. It's special to watch back for so many reasons. Like that team, if you look back, I think that was game 6 that year. And coming into that year, I think 45-0 SMU first game. Bryce gets hurt. Everybody's got a question mark going into game 2. Seth comes in, lights it up. I think he threw for like 5 touchdowns. I think the more interesting thing about that season is, so we had that big year before that ended poorly in the Fiesta Bowl. And then we had three games in 12 days. Because I'm pretty sure we did Sunday SMU, Saturday Northwestern State, Friday Buffalo at Buffalo, and so it was a smooth year because we were putting up points, but like we still weren't playing clean. We weren't happy. I think we went up to Iowa State and won, and then we went down to Texas, and I think we beat them 28-7, and kind of played a different brand. We ran the ball really well the second half against Texas. So I just kind of all that to say, like coming into that TCU game. They were a good football team that year, and they showed that entire year, including their bowl game that year. That being the first year of that stadium too, with coming off a championship, and then that game resulting in not saving our ass, but it earned our ass the championship, the second one, because if we didn't win that, then TCU's outright champs at the end of the year. That one, it's got to be that one. 13 though is a very underrated piece of the story. 11 everybody knows because it was the opener where RG3 goes on the scene. But 13, that was a grimy, ugly win. We were banged up. That was right after the Oklahoma State loss. So, everybody felt like the national championship hosts were done. That was the last year of the old national championship style, the BCS. Golly, that list of injuries, if you look back on it, Spencer Drango was out with his back. Tevin Reese was hurt, I believe, with the wrist. Might have just come back. I think Lake and Hager were out. Like we were banged up, and so that 13-1 was probably more gutsy in the sense of even having to figure it out. Even though TCU wasn't as good in 13 as they were in 14, so they're both special. But yeah, you're not going to be 61-58. So that was a long answer for a short purpose.
Is there any of and obviously the 14 Cotton Bowl, the way that ended was a nightmare. The Fiesta Bowl was, I don't know if you as a team overall that everybody was focused, but you could correct me if I'm wrong, and you had the bad start, and UCF was really good. Do you ever have a what if moment when it comes to 2014, not only the college playoff but also just the way that all ended?
Yeah, I've got a 2 what-if moments. The personal what-if, if my ACL decides to stay intact up in Morgantown, that would have been nice. And then the second, from a team perspective, to your point, because that's the game we lost in the regular season in 14.
Yep.
And by no means was me going down the reason for that. But I would have liked to be able to contribute that second half. I think it was third quarter when I went down. From a team perspective, Oklahoma State in 13 and then West Virginia in 14, you kind of hit on something. Maybe you've heard some stories. We had a little bit of fun in Scottsdale in 2013 for the Fiesta Bowl.
Oh, we know.
Yeah. So
Troy, we were in your hotel. There was like I'll tell you this. I won't name any names, but you'll know who they are. So it was late. There was a media party over at another hotel, like the media hotel, for New Year's. And so we got back. It was probably 10:45 local time, and I had a bit of a headache, and we needed some stuff in the morning. So I went down to the little sundry store. It was probably like 12:15 or so at that time, and Lackey was down there getting like some treatment on his shoulder or some of his ribs or something for an injury he had, so he could go to sleep. And then when I'm sitting there talking to him, like, "Oh, you okay?" And then a bunch of dudes with their shirts off came walking through the lobby, and I thought, "Oh, this can't be good."
Yeah. The best thing about that, though, is because you said the what if and learning lessons as we continue to grow each year. Mm-hmm. We knew we had to deal with that with the coaching staff that January. Those of us that were coming back in 14, and so the leadership group in 14, we took that very seriously going into the Cotton Bowl, which probably makes the Cotton Bowl comeback loss sting even more, is because we were on lockdown as a team with our focus. And I'm saying I obviously didn't play given the knee and everything, but we were up at the Gaylord up in Grapevine, and we took it very seriously. So I don't know. I think it was kind of a perfect storm for us walking into Morgantown in 14 against us. We had the TCU game was the week before. Mm-hmm. We fly East Coast. It was a 12 a.m. kick. They had a good scheme. I remembered immediately we had to start making changes on what we were doing in the run game. And it wasn't like it was a blowout like it was in 12 when we went up there, and it was Gino and Tavon dropping bombs all over us. The 14 one is the what if moment, to answer your original question, both the personal what if and the team what if, because that team, you saw what happened. What was it? Ohio State finished fourth in playoff first year, right? And they ended up winning it. That was the year. So,
yep. Zeke and all those guys.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, we're going to have to get you on again, Troy, at some point and get into some like the West Virginia game and like some of these, like the more details, because there is a lot of stories on I feel like, too, with the Fiesta Bowl, and you can correct me, like, yeah, you guys were having your fun because it was like the first time and all this, but there was also all the rumors about Art in Texas, right? Did that like infiltrate to y'all's, mindset at all during that time period? Because certainly outside of y'all's walls, that was all that was being talked about, more so than the game by far.
I think at the time my answer consciously would have been no. We weren't really worried about it. We weren't thinking about it. Looking back on it now and understanding the difference with unconscious bias and everything, it probably played a factor on us, whether we realized it did or didn't, to your point. It's interesting to look back and think on from everything that happened across those years, because they were full of different peaks and valleys.
For sure. And who knew that UCF would be in the Big 12 like 20 or 10 years later, whatever it was. I'm going way too far. 10 years later. But I did want to ask you, you mentioned the torn ACL, so I don't know what the answer will be here. Are you running the Baylor line on Saturday?
Yeah, there's a 0% chance that I'd like to leave another ACL on the football field. I've had two of them. If we want one of them's over on the practice field from spring of 13, and the other one's still in Morgantown. And I tell people to this day, you won't catch me back in Morgantown. I don't have any reason to go back to that town.
Fair enough.
Look, Troy, both Bryce Petty and Jordan Iver told us that you were going to be running it. So they've been trying
there's some misinformation.
No, they've been trying to spread some rumors so that they trick you into doing it. So I appreciate you standing up to the bullies that Niver and Petty are.
Yeah, well, the quarterback and the tight are they running it? You know, what's also going to be interesting.
No. Bryce had the response of the week when Craig asked him, and he said, "No, I've already had my one trip in my lifetime."
Ooh.
Yeah.
Was that his what if moment for 13?
And still, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was cold. It was a cold night. It was a weird night. Y'all know it's weird up there in Stillwater. It's just a weird place. No, I'm going to be interested to see who does that because, as y'all know, with offensive linemen, some go one way, some go a different direction, and with players in general, and see who's been taking care of themselves. So who took that part seriously from Coach Cos, and that's what strength staff.
So, last thing, you have this tomorrow night. There's a big get-together. There's a luncheon on Friday. There's a tailgating sometime Saturday, and then, of course, the game that night when you guys will be recognized. I asked what it all means. You have been someone who's been trying to also put things together, right, to make sure that everybody's involved wherever you might be.
Yeah, it makes me feel I'm very thankful, first and foremost. I'm thankful for the time that I had. It was a life-changing. I ended up spending 6 years there as I finished grad school, but life-changing 5 years on the program with the team, with my teammates, with the coaches, with the entire staff. It was so formative for me as a human being. It was challenging. I don't think I can ever get challenged more physically, both from a building and strength stuff perspective, but also tearing my body down for surgery multiple times and building it back up and go play again. So I look back on that time and I know how much it changed my life, being around who I was around there. Like I said, both team and coaches. So I'm just excited. You know, it's hard, you know, as I'm probably preaching the choir. Everybody knows it's tough as everybody gets older. It's tough to stay in touch. We've tried to, I think 2 years ago, Cam Caulfield, Spencer, Cyril, and myself all went, which is 4 of the 5 of the 2012 O-line, excluding Ivory, Wade. We all went up to North Texas for a game and saw Clements and Coach Bennett, and there was I think Gush was up there, Coach Bennett's son. There was a bunch up at UNT at the time, and that just for a day, and we just went to the UNT game, and that was so special. So whenever the administration, the current Baylor administration, and everything got behind this celebration and this weekend, and everything they're doing for it, like I said, I wasn't going to miss it for anything. So it is special, and I do like publicly. Joe Vaughn and Coach Wetzel and Coach Randa. It's hard, as everybody knows, to put on formal events like this. Like you said, at least 2 events tomorrow and then everything on Saturday. And they have done an incredible job of making us feel welcome back and doing everything they can to put a first-class weekend on. And it's not lost on us. And we appreciate the welcome back because we're excited to see not only each other, but just kind of the stadium that for the most, like we all helped build. And so it's a special weekend, and not to get emotional on it, but it'll be, I'm thankful and I'm very grateful for everything about my time there.
I got goosebumps when you started going down that last few seconds. Cause you're right. We take a lot of this for granted. We get to go watch the games, et cetera, but you're coming back to a place that was home, that you did help build, and RG3 and Terrence Williams in Oklahoma, but you were a part of the foundation that helped launch the money that helped build that stadium. That's got to be awesome.
It is. It's special, and we've got the key point of the weekend is that, what is it, the North End Zone, where it's got 3 years up there now, 13, 14, 21, Big 12 champions. So that's special. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Troy, we'll see you. We'll try to see if we can. I know you guys have a lot going on. The luncheon and the various things, the get-together, I guess, for tailgating on Saturday. But hope to get a chance to say hi, see you sometime at the stadium. It's going to be crazy and hectic. Thank you very much for your time, man. We always love covering you, and it's great to hear you and see you again.
Likewise. Appreciate you all, and take care. I'll see you Saturday.
Troy Baker, former Baylor offensive lineman, and one of the dudes that was part of the leadership. Cam Caulfield, he mentioned him, and many of the other great linemen that blossomed under Randy Clements at Baylor. We have Off the Radar with Craig. We have David Marshall, Baylor defensive lineman who was 3.5 years in the Army. Paul's Top 5 and more. This is 365 Sports. And Marco's Pizza is the fastest growing pizza brand in America. Marco's Pizza, Marcos.com. Pizza lovers get it. If you love pizza, Marco's Pizza can deliver. You go pick it up. You go online to Marcos.com, and there are, I could even, like right now, I don't have it up in front of me, but I guarantee you on the front page, there is probably still that pepperoni triple Magnifico loaded with pepperoni in whatever size or whatever thickness of crust you want. And there are 4 or 5 other specials that you can use code words online at Marcos.com to get the pizza that you want. Delivered or you pick it up on the way home. It's up to you on what you want and when. Marco's Pizza, Bob Mock with 5 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Woodway, and Robinson. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it.
If you want quality and personalized service for all your air conditioning and heating needs, call Tradesman Services. They're a family-owned and operated company that has served Texans for over 30 years. Tradesman offers maintenance plans starting at just $12 per month and a free service call for all new customers. They're also experts in geothermal design, installation, and service. Visit them online at coolingwaco.com.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at AllianceBankTexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgan Ford. It's that time of year. It's football season. Bird Colgan Ford is a proud supporter of the best high school football right here in Central Texas. BK Ford is proud to sell the #1 selling truck in Texas, the F-Series truck, 47 years in a row. Come see the largest showroom in Texas and experience better at Bird Colgan Ford.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine now has 2 locations to serve you. The original on Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street and the brand new spot in downtown Waco at 600 Franklin Avenue. If you're looking for the best in craft beers or local Texas bourbons, then the original is the place to be. And for the latest trends and online phenomenons, head downtown to the Franklin location. Either way, you're going to get the same great variety, customer service, and speedy experience. Check out both locations on their Facebook and Instagram pages. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street, and now downtown on Franklin Avenue.
This is Craig Smoak's Off the Radar, presented by Alliance Bank. They take pride in making banking easy. AllianceBankTexas.com.
Welcome back. Welcome in. Off the Radar, Tuesdays, Thursdays at around 4:45 or so. And obviously running a little bit behind here. I'll keep it somewhat succinct.
You go a little bit.
This next interview is on tape. So.
I'll keep it somewhat succinct.
Okay.
So I'm not planning on going 2 minutes. I'm just not going to go 20.
SUCCIN. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So let's get into it here. Last night, the baseball season wrapped up as the LA Dodgers are your World Series champions, defeating the New York Yankees in 5 games. Freddie Freeman, your World Series MVP after 4 homers, including the massive one there in Game 1. 12 RBI total for him. A pretty much no-brainer decision as far as your MVP vote goes, but it was a 7-6 victory for the Dodgers, who had a massive 5th inning that wasn't all their own doing. The Yankees seemingly falling apart at the seams with some crazy errors, but it was the Dodgers rallying to win this game and making it not quite a clean sweep, but as close as you can get to a sweep without going any further. So 4-1. Dodgers now with their their 9th World Series championship, and I'll get into a moment of what that means, big picture. But this series, this matchup was built up to be the biggest deal for Major League Baseball in a long time because of the two teams, the two markets, all their success throughout the history of the sport. And quite frankly, this series had some fireworks. I mean, in the stands, on the field, last night in the 5th inning, although those were the disastrous type of fireworks if you were a Yankees fan, but it's over. Dodgers win, and they are your World Series champions. So any thoughts, fellas, on this rather quick and to-the-point World Series showdown?
I thoroughly enjoyed last night's game from the 5th inning on. I do, as much as I can feel sorrow for a Yankee pitcher, Garrett Cole has wanted to be in this exact moment his whole life, where he's in the World Series for the New York Yankees, his favorite team growing up. So many of us have that fantasy. He's in it, and then the idiots all around him ruined it for him because he was pitching great. Yeah. And then those errors happened.
He made one of them, though.
Yeah,
mental.
Yeah.
But you're right.
There's all that, yeah. I mean, he wasn't the first. Judge was the first one, which shocked me even more. But, yeah, then it got the wheels came off. The Dodgers had, just more destiny on their side. They're a better team top to bottom. They're going to be stacked again next year. They'll go out and get big-time players. Their rotation's going to be fantastic because they'll have all the people healthy. Remember, they made it without Tyler Glasnow, who's one of their big signings in the offseason. He had an injury that was season-ending. It wasn't like Tommy John.
Shohei couldn't pitch.
Yeah.
Kershaw couldn't pitch. Glasnow, Michael Grove, Tony Gonsolin, Gavin Stone, and Dustin May.
And Bobby Miller.
Okay, and Bobby Miller.
So they had a lot of those guys that just weren't there. So very impressed. I will tell you this. Alex Verdugo was the last out. Alex Verdugo is one of the people traded for Mookie Betts. And there was a very sad realization that Mookie Betts now has 2 World Series, and one of the guys who helped the Red Sox do nothing was the last out for the Yankees in the World Series, and that stung like it was like 1,000 bee stings at once in my heart.
I bet it was. I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to if you didn't. The fact that he now has actually 3 total World Series, but 2 of those with the Dodgers and 1 with the Red Sox, who had to get rid of him, right? I mean, they had to.
No. It just all of a sudden, sometimes these billionaire a-holes get cheap, and that's what happened.
Yep. So he's gone on to do pretty well for himself and now is a twice-over World Series champion with the Dodgers. Will he wear the Dodgers cap in Cooperstown, you think?
Yes. Yes, I do. It again, that day, I'm just going to
a really tough day.
I'm going to have to get like a storm shelter or something and just be in there and then have somebody come and knock and be like, okay, it's been 2 weeks. It's over. They're not showing highlights of it anymore.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about that for a while because he's still got plenty left in the tank and probably he's going to have 3 and 4 World Series the way this is tracking right now with the Dodgers and his time there. But, yes, his second World Series with the Dodgers, his third World Series overall. Dodgers with their second in the last handful of years, and that now puts them into a new spot as far as the all-time list goes. Of course, the Yankees, right, the most World Series championships. Do you guys remember how many they have? We should know it's been nearly 20 years we've been saying the same total number here.
It's 27.
27 World Series championships for the New York Yankees, and they were hoping to get number 29 or 28, excuse me. But instead, the streak that has gone on since 2009 will continue on. So you think about that, man, and I remember growing up in the 90s, the sweet, sweet 90s. You grow up in the 90s, and the tail end of that decade, it was all Yankees. It was all Yankees. They won 3 World Series there at from 96, what was it, 96, 98, 2000. Mm-hmm. I think they won those 3 World Series. I got... Between that and the Lakers also being good then.
They won 4.
With 95, 97, 98, 2000.
No, 96 they won it because they beat the Rangers.
And then the Braves won.
And then they won 3 in a row. Yeah, so they won a chunk. You're right.
Yeah, so point being is they've been stuck on 27 for a while now. And actually, let me go back. Yeah, they won in
09.
98, 99, 2000, and then, 96 before that. So, 4 of the World Series from 96 to 2000. And then, their last one in 2009. So, man, it's been a little while for them. But with this victory, the Dodgers do believe win their 9th World Series championship. So they are moving up the charts here in terms of their their 8th World Series. That's why I was down there. The 8th World Series title. So they've got 8 now total. I thought it was 9. The Cardinals have the second most at 11.
Right.
Then you have the Red Sox and the A's both with 9. And then you have the Dodgers now with their 8th World Series championship. So they are 5th all-time in terms of World Series titles behind the Yankees, the Cards, the Red Sox.
That's some high company. Right
and the
there.
A's.
Yeah, and the A's is a team, if you're like 35 or younger, I don't know what the age would be there, you would have no idea since the Bash Brothers in the late 80s and then, of course, the teams in the 70s. But, yeah, that's some good company right there. The Cardinals, Dodgers, Red Sox, A's, Yankees, and one other team I didn't mention. But just think, 27, and Dodgers have almost what, a third?
A third. They
more,
have
yeah,
not even quite a third.
That's crazy.
So Yankees at 27, Cardinals at 11, A's and Red Sox at 9, and then you've got the Dodgers who now move into a tie for 5th with the San Francisco Giants. So that is where you stand now after last night. And any thoughts on the performance of Freddie Freeman and his MVP honors? He talked a lot about how tough the year's been, just family injuries, all sorts of stuff. Had the massive homer to start the series. And I ran down some of his credentials, but he was your World Series MVP before we move on here.
I loved it for him. One of the good guys in the game. And he had an injury in the NLCS and wasn't really that good. And then the World Series started and he had, it turned on. He's one of those, he's kind of like David Ortiz in that regard where, you know what, like you can be sore and banged up, but when it's World Series time, you're going to get the best out of him. And he did that when he was with the Braves and they won, and now he's done it with the Dodgers and they won.
Yeah, I'll always remember his home run. I was on my way back Friday night from a high school game, and that's when I heard the highlight. And he's another guy that left a team that they beloved, Atlanta. They fans loved him, and he now wins it. He wins it.
Yep, so there you go. So Dodgers win World Series number 8 for them, and it is on to the offseason and all the fun that comes with free agency and all those types of things. But a quick 5-game series, the networks would love to have had a couple more of those, but the Dodgers would not be denied, and the Yankees will definitely, I'm sure Sports Talk Radio in New York today was fiery as all get out, especially with the way that they seemingly self-destructed in some ways. All right, Week 9 college football. We've already turned the page to Week 10, really, but we finally got the full picture of the ratings, and I'll just roll with the top 5 here because I just like to list these off and just mention them as much as anything else. But the most watched game of the week last week was Nebraska and Ohio State. 5.96 million viewers, and that was on Fox, and that gives Fox their first big win in several weeks, as all we've heard from the TV propaganda circles and all that is how Disney and ESPN are crushing it, and they love their SEC investment. That's all we've heard for several weeks, but Fox actually getting a win and finally seeing some payoff for their big money Big Ten TV deal in terms of being on top of the charts. So Nebraska, Ohio State, 5.96 million. Missouri, Alabama, second most watched game, 5.54 million. Little over 5 million as well for LSU and A&M. So ABC still feeling really good about their investment this offseason. Penn State, Wisconsin, the fourth most watched game, 3.34 million over on NBC. And then Notre Dame and Navy rounded it out with 2.79 million over on ABC. The most watched Big 12 game last week finished 8th overall. TCU and Texas Tech. 2.36 million viewers on Big Fox for that grouping. So that's a really healthy number, actually, 2.36 million for Texas Tech and TCU. Cincy, Colorado was just a shade under that as well by like 20,000 people. So they were right there in the same mix. And then BYU and UCF also brought in over 1 million viewers with 1.24 million. Those 3 games were all above 1 or 2 million, and those were the only ones as you had a drop off then to get to Kansas and Kansas State, who had like a little over 700,000 people. But no surprise, at Nebraska, Ohio State, there was a lot of build-up for that one, and that was the most watched game. Tonight, you do have one college football game to check out on the networks, as you will get a chance to watch the Tulane Green Wave take on Charlotte. That is your sole game tonight. Tulane 6-2. Charlotte, a little bit more of a struggle for them, 3-5 at home. This is a An important game for Tulane, looking to stay unbeaten in the American, and Charlotte trying to remain above or be at or above 500. But that's 6:30 on ESPN. And then in the NFL tonight, you have the Texans at the New York Jets, 7:15 kickoff on Prime. Any thoughts on Texans-Jets? Do you care at all?
I hope the Texans win, which is,
they're 6-2, man.
Yeah, they're
I don't
good.
know if they're as good as 6-2. They're close to it, but there's been a couple of games where I think they've been fortunate. But just win and stack them in the left column.
Did either of you see the clip of J.J. Watt talking about Aaron Rodgers today from the Pat McAfee show?
I did not.
No. Oh, it was great. Pat McAfee asked him about Aaron Rodgers saying he's drinking cayenne pepper and water to help with heal from injuries, and J.J. Watt's like, I'm so tired of that shit. Just go win some games. You're 2-6. He's like, maybe sprinkle some cayenne pepper on the playbook and we'll use it like a Ouija board. Out of the darkness, like he just went off on Aaron Rodgers, and I was like, there you go, man.
I tell you what, if I drank cayenne pepper, I would be in the bathroom all damn day long. But if Aaron Rodgers can do it, good for him.
I don't know how well it's working, but I'm also kind of tired of it. Every time I hear his name, because I'm not a devout follower of all things Aaron Rodgers, or do I care that much really? But every time I hear something, it's always just like an eye roll and on to the next thing. I'm just over it.
I think that team is on the edge, even with the Devontae Adams. I think that team's on the edge of just imploding in a week or two.
Just do not care about all his tomfoolery. But you'll see Aaron Rodgers and C.J. Stroud and all the rest in action tonight on Prime. Texans at the Jets. There's a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate that. And congratulations to the Dodgers. Max Muncy. Do you have that, Garrett? There it is. Baylor put that out. Champion. Max Muncy with the Dodgers.
Awful at the plate in the series, and he was 0 for 16. Rough. But he was excellent on defense. Excellent on defense.
You know what? Is that his second?
Yep.
That's his second. Yeah, there was an at-bat in that game where I thought he could have popped it open and didn't. But the Dodgers still – that's a bad day in New York with that fifth-inning meltdown. All right, when we come back, he played high school football at Waxahachie. Remember we mentioned Jalen Rager a minute ago, who was a phenomenal player in college at TCU? He was on that Waxahachie team, and yet David Marshall was voted the best player that year. Went to try to go play JUCO ball at Navarro, didn't work out. He entered the Army. He then went back to Navarro after 3 or so years, came to Baylor. He's a walk-on defensive lineman, and his story next on 365 Sports. Pioneer, steel and pipe. You want to build something, you're in construction, real estate, commercial, something around your house, something if you have like a ranch or just something you want to build. Pipe, steel, and metal. That's where you go. Pioneer Steel and Pipe on the east of I-35 on Loop 340 and Highway 6. It is loaded with all of what you need, from the smallest piece of what you need to the largest piece of pipe, steel, and metal. Tremendous efficiency when it comes to the distribution area when you go to load up in your pickup truck or your 18-wheeler, hauler, whatever it might be. 1943, they opened up their doors, and look at them now. Bigger, better, faster, stronger, but still, and they mean this, and if you've been there, you know it, a handshake makes a big deal and difference, and they want to make sure you're always happy. Not just some people have gone by there, generations of families have, and they still do. PioneerBoys.com.
When it comes to me and my money, I know the way it should be. I need a partner I can count on. That's Genco and me. Genco is my credit union. They're always there for me. They're people I trust. They treat me like family. My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
Automatic Chef is your local vending, office coffee, and micro market provider, delivering outstanding service to break rooms all over Central Texas for over 50 years. Automatic Chef brings the best products to your location at the best prices. With hundreds of choices in fresh food, coffee, snacks, and drinks, let Automatic Chef tailor a break room solution to your needs. Make break time great again with Automatic Chef. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchef.com.
Bambi SQ, what is the number one reason or two or three reasons, Bambi, that people should contact House of Travel?
As a travel agency local here in Waco, we can take care of all your bookings, your payments, answer your questions, help you when there are issues or problems, things that may come up that you don't know what to do or how to fix them. People don't realize we don't charge a fee for what we do. It doesn't cost you extra to use a travel agent. We're just here. We get paid by the tour companies and the cruise lines to represent them. But you have an expert on your side that's here and local, and you have a name and a face to put together to help you with anything that you may need. Give us a call. We can price things for you. We can help you answer questions. We can make it simple, easy, and one stop.
Your knowledge of all the years you've done this and then spit it back to them or give them options?
It helps us to kind of know a date range, a budget, what your goals are and what you want to see and do on your vacation. And then that helps us to know what to look for, and we can narrow down and help you make the best choices for your vacation so you get the best value. You get exactly what you were hoping for, and making sure that it's taken care of with a carefree, easy, simple for you type vacation. I've been doing this for over 40 years. Every day I learn something new. I experience new situations and things that I can help take care of for people, whether it's just making sure you get the best deals and find the best vacations, or whether it's to solve that problem, like you've got a flight that's being canceled and you don't know what to do. There's weather coming up. Should I cancel my trip next week because of the hurricane? Those are things that we take care of and you don't have to worry about. You've got somebody that you can rely on that you know is an expert, knows what we're doing, have been doing this for a long time, so that you're not questioning, okay, does the person on the other end of the phone really understand what I'm asking or know how to find those deals? You've got an expert, and we are here to take care of that.
For more information, go to houseoftravelwaco.com. Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. Don's Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Want to send a message to the show? Jump in the Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue chat room.
Hi, this is David Smoak, 365 Sports with Baylor. Defensive lineman David Marshall, Waxahachie, Navarro, U.S. Army, and now Baylor. I saw a tweet from you, David. It was, I guess, a couple of weeks ago, maybe after the win against Texas Tech, when you said, we believe in ourselves. Do you believe in us? Something like that. And listen, I just thought that was a mature thing to say. It wasn't like pointing fingers, but it was obviously a huge win and a big moment for the fan base and the football team. What did that win mean to you guys who have been trying to get over the hump all throughout the season?
I mean, it really showed us a lot. It just showed us like the team that we could be and the team that we are. And it just showed all the fans, like, we're here, we're trying. You know, it's hard to win, but you know, we're just still trying to you know, show the world what we got. So.
Well, there was some noise outside the program. You guys aren't. Social media allows everybody to see everything. We have our show, and I'm sure it was a little bit frustrating. We kept hearing that you were close, but then the results didn't show that. What, in your opinion, has changed the last couple of weeks?
Pretty much just our mindset. Just, you know, it's tough to get over those you know, hard losses, and you know, I feel like it kind of shook us a little bit, but you know, just that bye week, and we had the chance to reset our mind and, you know, really focus and, you know, just think about the future and, you know, just keep thinking about the next game and the next game, you know.
All right, let's talk about your story. You went to Waxahachie High School, then you went to Navarro. Let's make sure I get this right. You were at Waxahachie, then you went to Navarro, and you tried to make the team. And tell me what happened there.
So there's like a walk-on program. It was pretty much kind of like a PE class, and I didn't really feel like I wasn't motivated enough to like stick it through, and it was, I guess, just kind of boring, and they didn't allow me the chance to try to, get better or even try to make the team. So I was, just not really, happy or, motivated to be there. So
Was it you lack of motivation, or was it them not giving you an opportunity?
I feel like it was a little bit of both, and I just started seeing all of my other teammates go here or there, and just kind of got down on myself, and I was just waiting for the opportunity, and it just didn't come for me, and I just just decided to go somewhere else.
Your brother Daquan and I have talked a little bit, by the way, so I got some good stuff. You knew that because you told him I would be contacting him, but then you made the decision to go from playing football to representing this great country and join the Army. Can you kind of take me through that process a little bit?
Really, I was never a big school guy, but I always liked helping people, and just, I guess, the structure of sports just allowed me to, just kind of stay focused and, go, just take one thing at a time. And without, that structure, I was kind of lost. So I was like, what else is there to do? And the recruiter came up to me and he was like, hey, man, you want to go to the Army? And I was like, why not? So.
Did you have any idea what that was going to be like?
Not really. I guess from like movies and, TV shows like that. But I was going in there blind pretty much.
Well, you join the Army or enlist in the Army, and obviously there's the boot camp and all that other stuff. What was that like? You said you needed structure, and a lot of athletes, once they're done playing, whether it's out of high school, college, pros, whatever, they can get sideways because there's not that regimen, there's not that constant routine. What was it like for you? Was it, I'm not going to say ever, anytime entering one of the military services, enlisted or not, is easy. What was that like?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult, but it was easy for me to, get yelled at by people or, go run or try, just doing like the hard work and stuff like that. So it was pretty, that was a smooth transition for that. And it was kind of like, I was kind of lost and like seeing other people, like they've never, might have never like had that kind of structure. And they were like, oh man, this sucks or that sucks. I'm like, yeah, the running sucks, but I mean, yelling, and other stuff like that, and like trying to stay awake in meetings and stuff like that, and like that was like nothing new to me.
That's something you needed, right? I mean, you kind of missed that.
Oh yeah, I missed that a lot. I had so much free time, and I was like, I didn't really know what to do. I tried to go to the gym a little bit, but that's only like an hour or two a day, and I'm like, what else is there to do?
What would you have done had you not joined the Army? Could you have like gotten yourself a little bit bored where you don't know what might have happened?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. So I was never a school person again. So I really was not focused on school. I've always liked working out. So I even became a personal trainer through the military. And so maybe I would have done that. But yeah.
When you didn't make the team at Navarro for whatever reason, did you ever think you would play football again?
Oh no, not at all. That's when I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, kind of like run away from that, and just I came like it was like a self-realization moment, and like, I'm done with football, and it was sad, but I was able to just focus on military aspect of,
Yeah, part of a career. Why? How did you end up at Baylor? Tell me that story.
So when I got out of the military and I went back to Navarro College, I made the practice squad for them, and I'm like, man, I really like this football stuff, and that really didn't go as as much as well as I planned it to be, but it was pretty good. And you know, I was getting done with that part of my schooling, and I didn't really know where else to go. And I want to study. I wanted to continue my education. I want to become a physical therapist, and I just Google searched, and you know, got Baylor University was like at the top of the list, and I came here actually I believe my senior year. I was on I think it was with my my older sister, and I was like, man, this is like cool. This is like a real college, you know. So, you know.
It's a smaller school, not a large enrollment, but it does have that college feel, that atmosphere, and the beauty of the campus to it as well. So you have there's five boys and girls, right?
Yes, sir.
It's not been an easy life for you. You lost your mom at a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
Your father had a bad accident, is a quadriplegic, and I asked Daquan, how's your dad doing? He goes, oh my God, he's doing great. But man, that's a lot, David, for anyone, whether you're 12 or 20 or 50 to deal with.
Yeah. It was pretty rough. And just trying to, you know, go through all that. But my family is, you know, amazing, and you know, they're still working hard. They're still loving. So I mean, we're just living life, you know.
Back to Baylor, 2 wins in a row. Obviously, the game coming up with TCU this weekend with the blackout and all of that. Craig and Paul, who host the show, sent me a couple of questions as well for me to ask you. One of them is, what does real leadership mean, and how is you seeing that right now evolving on the team?
Man, just seeing just like a whole another, like, I guess, like mindset from the leaders, and they're really starting to step up and take charge, and not just being this vocal person, which is what we were trying to focus on at the beginning, but now they're like actually helping each other and just trying to feed off each other, and you know, we can see it. So we're just like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely trying to, you know, gonna follow this guy. We're gonna definitely, you know, just do what we can and stick together.
How old are you?
I am 26 years old.
26 years old. And in this day and age, with the transfer portal, and then of course there was the COVID year, and then there was another year, and it just seemed like there's a lot of older young men that are playing college football. A lot of times it's a quarterback that might be 25 or 26, like the quarterback you just played, Bowman at Oklahoma State. Heck, he's back in Michigan, so he's pretty old. Do players look up to you a little bit different because of what you have dealt with as a member of the Army, and also your age? And can you sometimes maybe give advice because you're kind of a sage old man compared to everybody else?
Yeah, they definitely do. I try not to like step in and be like, oh, you know, I know this, I've been through this or that, but you know, I can definitely feel, you know, that they look up to me, and I just bring a different kind of like attitude to the team. So,
all right, so what about Dave Randa? And we'll get to when you first met him. But would he be a great military man because of his style and that focus and that, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I would definitely want him to be, you know, my squad leader, or you know, even my first sergeant. But yeah, he's a great guy, like, and he has, you know, great life lessons, and he can communicate very well. So yeah, he would definitely just make the smooth transition into the military.
You know, he played fullback too when he was in high school, I guess in college. And oh yeah, he I don't know if he broke his shoulder or a concussion or whatever, but yeah, he was like a fullback when he played back in the day, I think in college. Yeah. All right, let's talk about him for a second, because you know, 2022, fast start after the great year in 21, and then a bad ending. And then the bowl game was a disaster against Air Force. Then last year, never got going. And then this year, 2-4. But I wondered, when people start talking about there's going to be a change at his job, he's on the hot seat or whatever, did that ever filter into the locker room? And number two, what does it say? Because I never saw you guys quit on him. And even BYU, you're down 28-7, but you came back. I never have seen this team just lay down. What does that say about David Randa and the players towards him?
It says a lot. So we'll never give up on him because he'll never give up on us. And it's not just about football and what we can do for him. It's in all areas of life, whether that's spiritually or academically. He stays on us and he talks to us a lot, and so.
Has he ever said anything, besides everything to you about life and other places? Is there anything particular, a conversation with you that you remember the most?
At the end of the year or the season, we have a little chat with him, and he'll talk about our goals and stuff like that. And after last year being on the practice squad, I was kind of down. I was maybe I believe in everything that happens for a reason. So I'm on the team, but I'm not really getting, the looks that I want. And I'm man, maybe I should, throw in the towel again, and just having a heart-to-heart with him about that. And he had told me everything does happen for a reason, and I'm in this position for a reason. And my role is just as important as, the guy in front of me, so I really think about that every day.
I'm glad you said what you said. Or not glad. It's a great answer. It's a great part of who you are as a young man. Is I was wondering if you flashed back to Navarro when you weren't getting a chance, and that maybe you were going to give up the game, but you stuck with it. You happy?
Oh yeah. I do think about that a lot, and but I just remember how I gave up on myself back then, and I'm not going to do that anymore. I am here for a reason, and it's Baylor football. Who else doesn't want to be here? So,
what is this week? The emotions of this week. TCU, first of all, man, they've had a good run against Baylor. There's great memories for Baylor too, honoring a couple of their championship teams from 13 and 14. It's a blackout. It's a night game. It's TCU. Does this week, do you have to keep it the same, or is it a little bit different this week?
It definitely feels different from the outside aspect of it all. There's a lot of, historical things that comes behind this game, and we hear it all, we know it all, and we're just trying to, keep our heads level and just focus on, them as, our opponent, and just try to keep it as simple as possible.
David Marshall, defensive lineman at Baylor, played at Waxahachie High School with John Kitna, former NFL quarterback, was the head coach. Also then went to Navarro, didn't make the team, he goes into the U.S. Army for 3.5 years, and then walked on, right, at Baylor. Is that right? Did you earn that experience? You have been through a lot, no doubt. You were named the best player on your team in high school at Waxahachie, and there were teammates named Kennedy Snell and Jalen Rager. Jalen Rager on that team. What did that mean to you?
Man, honestly, it was a surprise to me. I am self-aware, so I know that I was not the best player or anything like that. I just, they told me to do something, I do it. And, it was really great to see that the others around me can see that that I was a great player. And, being with all those athletes, the crazy guys, those crazy athletic guys, and just wanting to be just to have that level of greatness that they did, and I was just it was really surprising to me that they chose me.
Are you still a good artist?
Uh, yeah, a little bit. I did a little drawing maybe like a couple weeks ago, but I don't really do a lot these days. I'm focused on school and ball. So
Do you ever I know you don't have a lot of free time, but then maybe there is some downtime, and I know another bye week coming up, but do you ever just sit there and get a piece of paper out and just start drawing something? Is it whatever's on your mind at the time, or something you saw and you just want to maybe start doing what you do?
Yeah, and most times I like to just sit there and just think of stuff, but then I'll end up drawing like my hands or something like that, just because they're like right here, and just a little thing to pass the time.
I mentioned your mother who passed away when you were younger, your father, the accident that has left him as a paraplegic. When you see him, what do? I mean, besides just kiss him and hug him, whatever, what is that like when you get a chance to see your father?
Oh man, I love it. Every time. He always has something to say, about how he's so proud and everything. And I really love that and respect that, and coming from him, because he's like my hero, and he was such a hard worker, and I just wanted, to try to live my life like he did, and like for as much as I know, I'm doing a pretty good job. So I just like to keep that going.
Hey man, you're playing college football, which you didn't think was going to happen, gave up on it, and maybe the structure of the Army gave you the belief not to. When it got tough, as you mentioned at the end of last year, I could see a lot of people wanting to walk away. That was bad with what happened. What was the appearance of Dustin Poirier like when he came to talk to the team?
I was so surprised. I was like, what in the world? Like, I get like this tingling sensation or something like that. I'm like, no way. Like, how? What? Like, what is he doing? But Coach Randa's a big MMA guy. So
David Marshall with us. I'll wrap it up with this. First of all, it's an incredible story of resiliency, of learning from the past, and you represented us as a country, which. Oh my goodness! It just there's nothing better than that. So I'll ask you this: what does the American flag and what was it like to represent this great country?
At first it was kind of like I'm just doing a job, but as I see my people that are still serving, and people that I've lost downrange, and I'm like, okay, this is like bigger than myself, and it's like it's just amazing feeling to serve the people, and just give them the freedoms that they have. It's really great.
Do you wish, and this is not getting political because I don't want to get there, but do you wish maybe more people realized how lucky we really are, no matter what they may think or how things may go, that people like you and many, many others, thousands upon thousands of others that are representing in different countries or whatever, that we still have it pretty good?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've seen some pretty bad stuff, people in bad positions, and we do have it pretty good, pretty nice. So.
All right, so I mentioned your brother Daquan. You have 3 other siblings, is that right? You want to name them so when we send this to them, they get to see you?
I have my older sister Diamond, and there's Delta and Dalia.
Okay, are that you have their back all the time, right? You and Daquan.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely, David. Thank you for who you are. Saw that tweet. And then I saw you again, I think, holding the flag, and I started asking about what your history is, and I'm so glad I had a chance to dig into that with you, and I hope you're doing well. Enjoy it. Get that win against TCU, and, hey, this season will really have turned around if you guys can get one more under your belt, maybe get closer to a bowl game. Thanks for your time, and have a great week.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
David Marshall. That's David Marshall, Waxahachie Navarro, then a walk-on now at Baylor, and his story which is about resiliency and not giving up. We're now joined by Mickey Spagnola, and he, of course, with us, the Cowboys, DallasCowboys.com, Cowboys after that. What looked like, well, maybe, and then it turned out that San Francisco was able to beat them. Mickey, what kind of week has it been in Frisco?
I don't know that I've seen it out of the norm. You know, the only thing that changed up is he started practices a little bit later in the day, or, you know, or maybe started the meetings a little bit later and pushed back his press conference on Wednesday. They practiced a little later on Wednesday. About the same today. The locker room during the open period was still, you know, kind of vibrant and loud, and I didn't see anybody hiding. So yeah, I don't know that it was changed any. It seemed kind of the norm.
Mickey, there's a lot of things that are not easily solvable. A lot of it's youth. Do you think that they would consider, if they, you know, maybe doing some shuffling on the offensive line, or, you know, like Tyler Guyton's kind of struggling at left tackle. Tyler Smith is really good at left tackle. What do you think the overall plan to maybe get the running game going from their end is, before you even get to the fact that, you know, the running backs are all veterans, and then Rico Dowdle had that weird illness last week?
Well, you saw him shuffle the offensive line. I don't think that fixed anything, did it?
No, it didn't.
So, and there's no one sitting on the bench that's going to come in and save the day.
Yeah.
I mean, they are who they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
So can they improve? Can the young guys with a little bit more experience play better? I mean, a lot of this, the offensive line, you know, just hasn't opened holes. And I don't know if that's how the running game's structured, or, you know, they're getting fooled by some line shifts at the last minute, but you don't see a lot of holes. Now, I don't know how you guys were, but everybody was clamoring for Delvin Cook. How'd that turn out? 6 carries for 12 yards. So they're just having trouble executing on the running game, whatever. But again, they had one bad quarter, right?
Yeah.
Think about it. I mean, they were up 10-6. They won the fourth quarter, but when you get beat 21-0 in the third quarter, and you had like 3 consecutive 3-and-outs, probably things aren't going to turn out so well. So that's kind of the frustrating thing. As I wrote about it, it was like a tease, right? They're up 10-6 at halftime, and you're thinking, well, you know, maybe. And then they fall apart in the third quarter. Then the fourth quarter, it's like, well, maybe if you can get another stop. And they get another stop, and then they went 4-and-out and didn't move the ball after scoring touchdowns on consecutive possessions. So, I mean, it sounds like a, you know, broken record, that it's the same stuff week after week after week. And the unfortunate thing is they're not getting any healthier. As a matter of fact, Trayvon Diggs didn't practice on either Wednesday or Thursday, and he's got a tight hamstring, and he sounded like it was no big deal, but he hasn't practiced. So it's either serious, or they're trying to rehab him and get him to the game on Sunday and not worry about practice.
So, Mickey, what do they miss the most? And not one player would solve their issues. You'd need like a truck full. But what would it be someone within the defensive line to help them against the run, which they did a pretty good job against it, and then you would look up and there's a bunch of yards? Would it be another weapon in the receiving core, somebody who maybe is explosive? I could go on and on and on. I know they've had a lot of injuries. If you could pick one position, if you could add a piece, and it's hypothetical, where would it be?
Micah Parsons. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence, Marshawn Nealon, Brandon Cooks. Can I get any of those guys back? Well, they're going to get back at some point. Can they keep their head, you know, somewhat above water until those guys return? I mean, that's why you would be hesitant to make some, I mean, unless you get a sweetheart deal, you make a trade for a guy at a position where eventually you're going to get those guys back. But can you get them back in time to save the season? And that's kind of the, $64,000 question that they've got to juggle at this point. I don't know that one person comes back and turns this whole thing around. It's kind of a group effort.
Yeah.
So, everybody talks about, you got to trade for a wide receiver. Well, within a week, I think Brandon Cooks will be back. And he's a guy that was really good in training camp until he injured his knee. And then he takes the procedure to try to help the knee out, and he gets an infection. Who could even dream up that scenario, right? And so now all these young receivers, and you thought, well, we can deal with a young receiver as the third guy. Well, now the third guy's second, and the fourth and fifth guys are third. And it creates a difference in that part of the game. And then if the offensive line is somewhat struggling pass blocking, that kind of diffuses what Dak Prescott can do in the pocket. Now, I'm not saying it's all that. I mean, the second interception against San Francisco, he made a bad decision. But sometimes when you're falling behind and you start getting desperate, you try things that you shouldn't do, and that was one of them. If you look at the first interception, and everybody just says, well, he threw 2 interceptions. Well, the first one, he's throwing deep, and he gets hit when he releases the ball and tries to throw off his back foot. Well, throwing off your back foot on a deep pass is a bad recipe. And then he not only does he get hit, he's laying on the ground when the ball gets intercepted. So his bad, offensive line's bad. The wide receiver, who's a young receiver in this league, doesn't go and interfere with the guy. He just lets him catch it. So there's a lot of things that, and I've heard Troy Aikman say that about interceptions. There's a lot of things that get packed into interceptions.
Mickey, when people think about, like, they went and made the Amari Cooper trade, that year, and they were 3-5 when that happened, but they had, it was, everything else was fairly solid. That was just a gigantic gaping hole. They did not have anybody who could win on routes, and him coming in changed all that and opened up the offense in a way that hadn't happened that season yet. So when people say, hey, they need to make moves at the trade deadline, well, because of all the injuries they have, this is not a team that has that one gaping hole. So a trade deadline move, outside of it being some sort of, like you said, sweetheart deal of a superstar player that they can get that would make them better not only this year but next year, I just don't think it's worth their time to even consider it that much.
I agree with you. There's nothing more I can say about that. You just kind of said it, that I don't know that one person fixes this team. And this is not like 2018 where, the wide receiver core was deficit of talent. CeeDee Lamb's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, he was awfully good in the fourth quarter. And I refuse to think San Francisco backed off because they've lost leads before. I think they knew better. So it wasn't like they weren't trying and they were just going to coast, right? Sort of like the Yankees in the fifth inning. So it's a dilemma, right? Because if there was an easy answer, I'm sure they would have fixed it by now. They don't need us to point it out. It's not like they're stubborn and against something. But right now, if the offense can somewhat catch up, but then you're going to have to score 30 points a game to win. So one guy on defense. Well, okay. So it's like they're playing whack-a-mole on defense, right? Well, if they get the defensive end back, that's good. But what if Trayvon Diggs can't play Sunday? Deron Bland's not going to play. Kalen Carson hasn't been playing, but he's going to be able to play. But if Trayvon Diggs isn't in there, who's playing the other cornerback spot? Well, you're looking at somebody from the practice squad because, unfortunately, they took the guy off the practice squad, right? Elevated him after his 3 elevations, signed him to the 53, Amani Oruwariye, and he ends up getting hurt near the end of the San Francisco game. Mm-hmm. He's got 3 fractured transverse process in his back, the little bones that protrude off your vertebrae. So now he's on injured reserve. So the next guy up to me is either Josh Butler or one other corner on the practice squad that hasn't played all year and really hasn't played much in the league at all. And that's what you're going to trot out there at wide receiver. So if the young guys that they're using up front trying to get to the quarterback don't get there, they got a pretty big hole at cornerback at this point. You got a rookie on one side and probably a guy that hasn't played in the NFL on the other side.
Mickey, they can't just win 3 in a row. You got to do it one at a time. They are a game under 500, but it could be worse. Their schedule doesn't get much easier. They're playing a team that probably you would think ends in a shootout with what they have in Atlanta. But 3-5 compared to getting back to 500, it's really almost like 2 games. How critical is it to not get so much underwater that even if you can dig out of it, it takes so much energy to do so?
And this would be a game against a team that's, I don't know, somewhat like you, right? If you look at who they've beaten and who they lost to, you know, they've beaten teams that they probably should beat, and they've lost to teams that you would think they would have lost to. And I know they won 4 of the last 5. 2 of the wins have been over Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's a 500 team, right? Their best win, and I'll give them credit for this, is at Philadelphia, second game of the season, 22-21. But after that, they beat New Orleans. They lost to Seattle, by the way, in a shootout. And the other team they won against, well, it's Philadelphia, Tampa Bay twice, right? New Orleans, and that's how they've gotten to 5-3. They lost to Pittsburgh. They lost to Kansas City. They lost to Seattle. So, yeah, it's not like they set the world on fire, but they've had a favorable schedule, maybe more so than the Cowboys, because the Cowboys' worst loss, let's face it, of the 4, was to New Orleans, right? You can't have that happen. And that's the difference between 3-4 and 4-3 right now. And I guarantee you the other ones they lost, every one of you guys would have picked the other team to win.
Yeah. No.
Am I right?
No. The one that comes back, and New Orleans now is a shell of themselves. I mean, they beat the living hell out of Dallas, jumped on them, and just, I mean, there's a couple of games you look back on.
New Orleans doesn't have Derek Carr or Rashid Shaheed now.
I know.
And those two in particular jump-started the onslaught.
The Cowboys have to win on the road because they're going to go 0-8 or 9 at home, right? I mean, that's the deal. Yeah.
Well, it depends on who you're playing at home, doesn't it?
Yeah, no. Well, I hope with them it does, but golly, man.
Well, who do they lose to at home?
New Orleans. Baltimore, really good.
Okay. New Orleans.
Detroit.
That's the one. Detroit.
Yep. Maybe the best team in the NFL. Who knows? I know Kansas City's undefeated. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and if you look at last year, well, the 5 losses, 4 all on the road, 4 of them were to teams that went to the playoffs. They lost to Arizona, bad loss, but that's going to happen, right? So it was more, to me, it was more so winning at home by who you're playing compared to who you played on the road. And everybody other than New Orleans right now, the 3 teams played in the conference championship games last year. So they're not losing to just anybody for the majority of it. And New Orleans was playing well, right, until they lost Derek Carr and now the other wide receiver too.
They were. Yep.
So it's kind of weird. And so let's see. But again, injuries do matter, and they're not the team that you thought they were when they're going to start the season. So I don't know if they can get these guys back and it'll turn it around. If they can just keep the guys together and believing and, practicing hard and playing hard, and maybe these young guys that are forced to play maybe they get it together. But they're also relying on a bunch of young guys, veteran guys that they brought in at the start of the season, had not been with them. And so you're trying to, some of them didn't even go to training camp with anybody. They're sitting on their couches. Now, maybe that's their bad for thinking they have to rely on that. So, you can criticize them maybe for how they put the roster together. But again, they had guys at these positions that were Pro Bowlers that are not playing on this team. And I'm not trying to make excuses. It's just a fact. DeMarcus Lawrence, Pro Bowler. Micah Parsons, Pro Bowler. Deron Bland, Pro Bowler. Trayvon Diggs coming off an ACL, Pro Bowler. Brandon Cooks has been to the Pro Bowl. So they've lost some serious talent on this team. And obviously, when you pay your star players, you probably have to scrap along with the depth. You can't keep a Dorrance Armstrong, right? You can't keep a Dante Fowler because those guys make some money. You can't keep Tony Pollard, although I don't know that Tony Pollard set the world on fire last year. And so, yeah, they got themselves in a difficult situation, and they're kind of at the mercy of these young guys growing up before your very eyes quickly.
Mickey, thank you. Appreciate your time. Atlanta is next. High-flying team with what they do with Kirk Cousins. Even what's the tight end that played at Florida having a better year this year? He's a fourth-round pick.
Kyle Pitts.
Fourth pick overall. Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts. Well, when you have an offense
Drake London.
Yeah.
Bijan.
When you have an offense that uses all the players in it, like, they're going to be better.
Yeah.
As opposed to Arthur Smith going, here's what we're going to do.
This could be the Cowboys 40-38.
He goes into the meeting and he's like, okay, what are we going to do? And he goes, Cordero Patterson.
Hey, Garrett, before we get to the top five, we're running slightly late today. Can you show the picture of Tom Homo, the AD at BYU, dressed up today for Halloween? And look at that.
All right.
Jeannie, our third wish. We wish we had the most iconic director of athletics in the world.
If you can name that character.
It's a cobra.
No. Who is he dressed up as?
I have no idea. The genie.
No, he's dressed up as Jafar, the villain of the Aladdin movies.
I don't know if I watched Aladdin.
I had two small children in the early 90s.
Yeah, I know. And I don't know if I went. I know I went, like Lion King was the one I wanted to go watch like 7 times. And a few others, but I don't know about Aladdin. I'm not sure that was a big part of me remembering Aladdin.
Yeah.
Craig, did you go watch Aladdin when you were a young kid?
No, I don't know that I went and watched it. No, I don't.
I didn't see.
I've
That's
seen
why.
it. Yeah, 30 years ago.
Yeah. All right. When we come back, it's Paul Catalina and also the top 5. I mentioned this before. Waco Custom Marketplace this week, and they're open until late afternoon on Saturday. Any week, and especially during football season, it's your tailgate headquarters with charcoal and pellet fuel, cold beer, wine, briskets, tri-tip, and all the marinades and seasonings you could ever want. And then on top of that, there's a full-service butcher shop and also a bakery. Right now, they have a $100 deal of the week. It's 10 pieces of 16-ounce select New York strip steaks right now inside the store at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. We mentioned this also this week. The weather, it's a little cooler after the rain came through for a little bit today, and that was nice after 37 days of no rain in this area. 5 pounds of 1 pound packages of stew meat, 5 1-pound packages of chili ground beef, and 5 1-pound packages of ground beef. It's that time to start to have kind of those soup type, I guess you could say, meals from chili to also stew and more. They also have a fall box 2 and 3 and much more, from pork chops to ridge links, whole chicken, and much more. If you want something to cook, they have it. If you need all the little knickknacks and more, they have it. Marinades, seasonings. Waco Custom Marketplace, the Bauer family. He's happy. He's a big Baylor fan after a couple of wins. 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Paul Catalina's Top 5. Brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, rolling through our disruptors this week when it comes to the playoff. Of course, we're brought to you by Texas Beef House. Go to bidonbeef.com, get ready for that auction. Use our promo code 365sports at checkout for a discount. Our top 5 Big Ten playoff disruptors. Some of these only have one game left, some of them have 2, but interesting we'll go through to see how the playoffs and the tiebreaker scenarios could get even more confusing with some upsets down the stretch. Number 5, Minnesota, the Gophers. All right, so down the line, Minnesota still has a game against Penn State. An upset against Penn State, obviously, especially since Penn State could lose this weekend to Ohio State, would really put them behind the 8 ball. Minnesota's been better than most expected this year, and I kind of expect to see one more heroic performance out of them this season. Will it be against Penn State? Who knows? Number 4, Michigan. But Michigan sucks, Paul. Yeah, that's true. They're not good. They've not followed up the national championship well. Everything is topsy-turvy in college football, but Michigan still has games against Oregon and Ohio State and Indiana. So they should probably be higher on this list, but they have a chance to wreck a lot of playoff hopes, and a loss to Michigan, because they are not good, would really put a dent in somebody's strength of schedule record. But they have Oregon, Indiana back-to-back weeks, and then, of course, always end up the season with the game against Ohio State. And again, Ryan Day hasn't beat them. He hasn't beat them. So maybe this is the most embarrassing loss to Michigan that Ryan Day will ever have, if that should happen. Again, we're playing the what-if game all week long here in the top 5. Number 3, Wisconsin. Wisconsin has a game left against Oregon in a couple of weeks. That game is at home. It's in November, and it should be cold in Madison. So the Badgers jumping around over Oregon could be dashing some of their playoff hopes. Now, if that's Oregon's first loss, probably not, but a loss to Wisconsin could certainly shake things up inside the Big Ten. Number 2, Ohio State. How can they be a disruptor? How indeed? Well, right now, when it comes to the Big Ten title game, they're on the outside looking in because of that loss to Oregon and the fact that Penn State and Indiana are also undefeated. Well, this week, obviously, they play Penn State. So they could hurt Penn State's hopes of getting in the playoffs, at least that first chunk out of them. Then they play Indiana on November 23rd, and of course, that would maybe knock them out of the Big Ten championship as well. So Ohio State goes from the hunter or the hunted to the hunter, at least for a week, maybe 2, in the Big Ten, but they've got a chance to really affect this and get themselves back in the driver's seat. But let's face it, is Ohio State at 10-2 or better getting left out of this thing? No way in hell. But they could ruin somebody else's chances for sure, or we might be viewing the beginning of an epic collapse. Who knows? College football is unpredictable. Number 1, Indiana. Again, they're already undefeated. They've got to play Ohio State coming up. But after that, really, they're on easy street. They've got, or before and after that, to be more correct, Michigan State, Michigan, and Purdue surround the Ohio State game. So as long as they just lose to Ohio State, or maybe even beat them, they could be sitting pretty, and then everybody would be shocked. But Indiana has a good chance to just take one loss, maybe not go to the Big Ten championship game, and still wind up in the playoff, and then they could wreck somebody else's season from another conference. I don't know, but it's all speculative. Here we go into another week of college football. That's going to do it for now. We say goodbye in just a sec.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. And, of course, Texas Beef House, the sponsor. Their next auction is November the 9th. If you want unbelievable Wagyu or Angus raised beef from the Duvall family at TexasBeefHouse.com. Hey, thanks to Emery Winter, who's working on 365 Sports tonight on the CW. Garrett Ross, thank you. Jack McKenzie, Levi Caraway, they're always close by, even wherever they are today, covering what they do, or even taking a deep breath. For Craig Smoak and Paul Catalina, happy Halloween. We appreciate you so much. I'm David Smoak. Appreciate all of what you do when you spend time with us and our great sponsors. Good night, 365 Sports, and happy Halloween.